Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with three S's. I'm your host, Chantele Francis, here with my traitor-esque friend, Jonathan. How are we this Sunday, Jonathan, now that the Traitors has begun?
It's an instant success, I think, this season, even just with a few episodes. Yeah, so good.
So good. And season one was super fun. It was really good. All the other iterations are super fun and really good. But I love this cast. Every single person, even the people that I don't know that well, like they all put together are a really really good group of people.
Yeah.
And I was tickled how excited I was watching every single minute of it.
Oh, and I kept saying how people were surprising me. People who I thought weren't going to bring anything. People who, you're right. I didn't know, and some of the people I didn't know are some of my favorites. And I was not disappointed by others who I do know, who I knew were going to really go for it. And just the dynamic between everyone is just really working. You know what I mean? So yeah, they did a really good job with casting.
And I also love how Alan is just bringing in the looks. I think the cast also, they brought their best outfits. Like, I'm just, all of it, it's just like eye candy and like strategy candy and dynamic candy. Like, it's all just so edible and delicious.
Yeah, like I was expecting to, like, some of past reality shows that we won't name names, that were hosted by former presidents. The like some of the athletic people, some of the people who you don't really know, seemed like filler. They would get to these shows and be filler, and this is not the case. Like, everyone came to play. And you know what I mean? Like,
Except
everyone's.
for maybe whoever got banished in the third episode.
But
Definitely.
even still, that brought something, because I was
Yeah.
like, and I was even thinking, like, was it the second or first episode where someone maybe in the first challenge, someone had skipped and stayed home because they weren't feeling well, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, they don't really want to do this. But no, then they came back, with the plotting and the pointing fingers, and I was like, okay, everyone's really kind of participating and trying their best, even if they're not from a strategic background, so it's.
And I have to say that the Bravo women have their finger on the pulse.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I think it's because they actually are used to finding backstabbers amongst them in their
Right.
friend groups,
And they have their guard up, and they know that they need to pay attention and whatnot. Yeah, I was really impressed by them, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Sophie's here joining us today. Sophie likes the twists that they introduced, like the Traitors pick a faithful to join them. So this was something that was done on the UK season, the new season of the UK. Except for the UK had 3 Traitors that were chosen, and then they recruited a third one before. After the first murder. So how did you feel about that this translated on this new season?
Yeah, it was a little different, which I liked. I actually thought, I rewound for a second, because I'm like, did I miss?
Yeah,
I'm like,
third
I thought I
person.
only, like, 2 people talk. Yeah. I do like it. And I get how, I like how there's new challenges as well. Speaking of how they're copying the UK version, but it is the same challenges essentially that we're seeing in the UK version, just like season 1 did as well, because they are filming at the same location, essentially back to back, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and the UK version is coming out before them, so we are seeing these challenges ahead of time. I don't actually mind it, as long as they're different from season 1, and as long as it's like, I'm not watching every single traders do the exact same challenges, like watching this 4 or 5 times, then I'm okay with it, to have just the US copy the UK.
Now, is it a
Yeah,
copy, or are you only thinking that because the UK was dropped first?
right. I don't know which was actually filmed first, but one copied the other. So it's again, essentially, I know they're shooting at the same location, back to back. So but I don't mind it, and I really
I
like how they
do wish,
changed.
though, that they were all just different.
Oh, I
Because, like,
mean,
yeah, you'd prefer that too?
Of course I would. Of course. It's a matter of like how much I minded, because it really bothered me watching like, New Zealand, Australia, like whatever, all these different versions last year. And it was
The same
all
thing.
the same, essentially. Yeah, it just, that bothered me. I'm like, I don't need to see the same challenge 4 times within 6 months. So yeah, but this time around, it's yeah, of course I would love new challenges, but I get it. And it's kind of interesting seeing these reality, celebrities take on challenges that, the UK everyday people did.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I'm not minding it. And then these little twists, these little change ups that they're putting on it, like, only have 2 traitors and pick a third. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting. Lovable Nikki is here. Hi. Hi, Robert. Okay, so let's start with this episode. It's called BFFs, Betrayers, Fakes, and Fraudsters. I was really excited just to get it started. I love seeing the clip, and I can't wait till it happens when Phaedra says, "This is not The Bachelor, and I don't have to kiss your ass for a rose." I'm like, when do I get to see this? When do I get to see this? So, we learned that Larsa and Marcus are the first couple that are on the show. We see that Parvati doesn't want to see Sandra. So we definitely predicted that there might be some bad blood there. How are you feeling about the Sandra Parvati kind of potential reunion here?
Yeah, I was hoping that, because first of all, there's some people that I'm like, I'm rooting for, and Sandra's one of them. Sandra with these braces, we haven't seen that before. I haven't.
I
And
know, and it's like it's so funny though. Like she can tell that she's trying to cover them. Like when she's talking, she doesn't show them that much.
you can
And but
hear
then
them.
when and you can hear them, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's cute, and she sounds like she's so much younger and like less cutthroat. So I wonder if this is strategy. Like she has the braces on, so she can just seem like a little bit like
Yeah.
more timid and a little bit more like teen like and less cutthroat.
A little bit more vulnerable. Yeah,
Yeah.
it wouldn't put it past me if Sandra like was like, put on these bracelets. I don't need, you shouldn't even need them. Just
She
put them
just like
on. I'm going at like,
Invisalign. I want braces. I want to look like I'm 14.
I want silver in my face, affects how I speak, Yeah. I
Imagine they gave her headgear.
right. She's like comes out at night. She has to wear these. She wakes up in like, those bedroom shots that they like shoot. She like wakes up
With
with
her
a
headgear
full,
on.
with a full thing. But yeah, no, I'm hoping they work together, because I know how powerful they both can be. And so I was looking for this resolution. I was looking for Sandra to not stick out, too much, and for them to just kind of get along and do what they have to do together. So
Sheree, like me, was excited to see Alan's looks and what he's going to be wearing. When the drums were playing and we see all the groundsmen, like I was really, they did a really big production with this opening shot and opening sequence. I thought it was really, really well done to get us. It lived up to the hype of like the excitement that I had for the season.
yeah, exactly.
So we didn't hear a lot about it, but is this dog named Lala a new addition to the cast?
Oh
Alan?
yeah, that little black dog.
Yeah, it was Lala.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know much about it. I just kept popping up like a, where's Waldo situation. And I'm like, who is this dog? What not? Here's the thing though. With the UK version, what's her name? Amanda, the host, I obsessed
No,
with. What's her
name's not
name?
Amanda.
I'm
Claudia.
I'm absolutely obsessed with the UK host. So the fact that I enjoy Alan, just goes to show how great of a job he's doing as well, because I am obsessed with the UK host. I don't want to take obviously the job away from Alan, but I'm like, if they had started with her as the host for the US as well, I would have been super happy.
I would definitely would have been happy because like I love her name is Claudia Winkleman.
Right.
But yeah, I love Claudia for sure. But I do like Alan, what he's bringing. He's starting
Yeah.
to really make it his own, like with the fact that he's going with the whole wardrobe thing, and he's always like going to be on point with his fashions. And I find that he's very witty, and like what he says, like I'm like, what is Alan going to say? Or like I am still intrigued. And so if there wasn't a Claudia, I would think that like he's a really great host, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And he is, but I mean the fashion, skipping to the third episode, he was wearing these like faux kilt shorts with this other. I was like, I don't know what we're doing there, but everything else, it's he had that like big tool, like what was it, flower or something at
Yeah.
one point and stuff, and I love the over the topness to it. So
Me too.
yeah, yeah.
I felt the season looked rich, like opulent. They're only playing for $250,000, which to me actually is a lot of money. But like, I feel like these people, not that much money. Like, how much money did we say that Deontay had? Like 100 million. Like $250,000 is like
Yeah.
$100 to them.
But the thing is like Deontay, they're really competitive people by nature, and so that it doesn't matter. I think as long as the money's nice, but yeah, some people have this in spades, and others, like some of our challenge people or even Big Brother and Survivor people, like this is a good chunk of change. So it's but regardless, I feel like
But a lot of them have already won $1 million. Like we know
right.
CP's won over $1 million. Bananas has won way over $1 million. He has a
Yeah.
gazillion companies.
That's-
We know that
well,
Sandra's won $2 million. Poverty's won $1 million.
yeah.
Dan has won 500,000. Like,
Because there's a lot of winners there, but at the same time their competitiveness allows them to, it could be for like $100, and I think
I mean, we play
like,
these games for free,
yeah,
so like I get it, but like
they're putting their
still,
all
like
in.
the prize pot should be a little bit higher. I feel like their appearance fee was more than the $250,000, at least for some of them.
Yeah.
So CT clocks Bananas, and he's annoyed by Bananas being there. He's just like, this guy can't do anything that I do. Like, I can't do anything without him. I thought that was kind of fun. Like, they have like a brotherly kind of relationship, being on TV together for almost 2 decades. So everybody is meeting each other, and we hear some, confessionals from Dan saying that he loves the caliber of this cast. So do I, Dan. So do I. And Alan shows up. Welcome to the Traitors. And he's wearing a red plaid cape with a red velvet suit underneath, talking about the $250,000 prize. And then he explained the rules, that there is no BFFs unless it's betrayers, fraudsters, and fakes, which I thought was a cute way to tie in the episode title, because I was like, who's going to say that? I wonder. So Trishelle, CT, and Bananas are all from the challenge or like MTV shows, and they find the bar. Did you like seeing the three of them together?
Yeah, I mean, I do, and even I'm not the biggest fan of Trishelle for whatever reason, but it's seeing them together. I was like, okay, I love CT, and I'm like, these three are going to work together. But that's the hard part, is when you have so many favorites, you have like, okay, I want these people, you just want them all to come together and work together, but it's not going to happen. So at some point, people are going to go after people that you like, are going to go after other people that you like. But seeing the three challengers on there, I was like, ooh, I think they really have a big advantage to these challenges, because if you think that, people might keep them in the game if they're doing significantly better than other people in these challenges, because some of them are quite physical and hard, but they might be a big threat to other people as well if they're talking. Because I think we saw at the beginning as well, oh, you know who this is, like these whispers, and like, oh, this person's been, like some people explaining. I think like Janelle was explaining at one point to someone else who someone was. And so I'm like,
yeah, Janelle. Oh, Janelle was, who's she explaining it to? Was it Kevin? It's probably Kevin.
I'm pretty sure it was Kevin actually. And she's like, oh no, he like, and explaining like these people have won, these people have been all in the same show together and things like that. It can become a threat, especially if the right people or the wrong people are the traitors, so it's a good thing, and it's because you might have each other's back, but it also could be a bad thing.
How awkward was it though when so we see Poverty and Peppermint, they're talking, and then she's kind of saying like, I don't really want to work with Sandra, we have a little bit of bad blood, and then Sandra enters and there's just silence.
There's a lot of that in these 3 episodes. There was a lot of like, you are talking about someone specifically and they walk right through that door, you know? And it happened with I remember Sandra was on there was a group of them and Sandra was on like the other end of that, and she just immediately starts talking about code or something, and I was like, oh, you've done a good job. And we also saw that with Max later on, where like people walking awkwardly in the room with other people speaking, even if it's not necessarily about them, just like about other people. So it's I like how they have the little rummaging about, and I just think it's like more authentic than, you know, we've talked about Traitors Canada, where it just seems like they're like they have an hour to talk or something, and they're like, hey, film here, film here, film here, film here. This just seems like they're just roaming and they're talking and they're just doing whatever, and they're just capturing this on camera like they should. It just seems really authentic and well done. Yeah,
Definitely. And I mean, I guess I haven't been on a show like Survivor with Sandra and Parvati. And like, I don't know how mad I would be. But then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you know what though? Some people piss me off at some of these games that I've played before and I'm never speaking to them ever again. So I guess I could understand if it's for $1 million that like maybe I'm not talking to you, Sandra.
name names, name names. No, yeah, it's true. It's true. That is true. It's like you. I mean, I'm Portuguese. I hold grudges. I'm petty, but
Look
yeah.
who this is, Joseph O'Toole. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Joseph says, I know Jonathan is happy to see Sandra back on TV.
yes. Look, we have a guest. Our
Joseph,
guest.
do you want to pop in? What are you
Um,
doing?
it's I'm thrilled to have Sandra back, of course, and some other favorite. You know, first of all, I've never seen Sandra and Janelle. These are my queens play
I
together.
know. What?
Like, this is it. You know.
So good. We get more introduction to Phaedra, talking about how she glams at the Ritz. Like she looks quite opulent, Miss Phaedra. And I didn't know much about Phaedra coming into the season. I think you probably will agree with me that she is a delight.
Oh,
People were not letting me know that I was gonna love this woman. I thought that I was gonna not like her, that we thought that she was gonna maybe be out first. That like it just didn't seem from the reaction of people that they were gonna be as excited as the performance that she's given so far.
yeah. Well, I mean, she's a lawyer, and so it is
It
JoJo. Yeah,
is JoJo. JoJo, want me
JoJo.
to send you a link?
Um, but she's a lawyer. She knows how to play it. I mean, when I and we haven't spoken about, I guess, who the traders are yet, but when I was you know, thinking about who the traders were, can we talk about that now, or is that skipping ahead?
Sure. Whatever.
So,
We
so
have a
that,
lot to get through.
yeah, they picked 2 traders. Obviously, it was Dan and Phaedra, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I was just worried that Dan was just gonna get his, and I kind of think he still is, but Dan was just gonna get his way in the Traitors Tower. But she's really, you know, bringing her ideas and not just like following along and playing it really cool. And her name's not being brought up at all, at all,
No, at all.
at all.
At all.
And I just love watching her. So yeah, yeah.
Letta's here with us saying, like, I didn't know a lot about her either, but I'm enjoying her so far. Definitely, she's a delight. I'd be like, I would want to play with Phaedra. I want to hang out with Phaedra. I want Phaedra to have like to like me like she likes CT. Like seeing them
Yeah.
like walking around the rooms together. I'm like, I love Phaedra and CT together. And then she mentions that she has a little crush on him. I was like, I could see it. Like they have a good little bond and dynamic, and I was here for it.
Yeah, but even like her nicknames that she has for some people, and she has this like with like Bergie and stuff like that. Like she's, you know,
What'd she call him again?
oh, I can't remember, but
I have it
she'll
written
have
down
these,
somewhere.
she has these like cute little things, and you know, you could tell she really likes these people, you know. So yeah.
Yeah. Episode so good. Cast, everything. Agreed. So Kevin, yes, Kevin was the one that was talking with Janelle. He knows nothing. And we have to have a couple of these people in the season. And it doesn't bother me that much. Like on shows like a competitive reality show that's not the Traitors, I kind of get annoyed when people don't know what show they're on, what they're getting into. Like it kind of annoys me a bit. This show, it's fine that he doesn't know anybody on the season. He can just be the bumbling idiot, and it's fine by me. It doesn't ruin. Oh, Bergalicious! Thank you, Shayna. So cute, so cute. Yeah, so Kevin doesn't bother me though, the fact that like he doesn't know anything about these people, the show that he's on, what show anybody else is on. It doesn't bother me. How do you feel
And
about it?
I think that's genuine, but also you can lean into that. You can play that up. Seem the hard
I would
thing
probably
is,
play it up, but
yeah,
like,
the hard thing is that when you're with the Traitors, when you are so obviously a faithful potentially, that is a good option for people to murder you. It's like there's two things. You could be so good that you might be onto the Traitors, murder, or you might be so obviously a faithful, murder. Those are
yeah.
the two biggest reasons that people will murder you on Traitors. So you have to be careful about that. But yeah, play it up and people won't suspect you and you won't get banished at the round table. So
So Phaedra, when she was talking to CT, she was saying that Bananas gives her Repo Man vibes. Do you agree?
oh my gosh. Yeah, that was really funny.
Is he
I
coming to
mean,
repossess your car?
if he's not selling it to me, then yes, perhaps. But it's like, it's funny.
So Larsa and Marcus apparently will murder each other because they are there individually. Did you believe them?
No. And not to trash on anyone, but probably I think overall they are the least enjoyable for me. I would say they're probably the team or the people that I just am not necessarily rooting for the most, because I like everyone so much. But I'm also like, yeah, you are a part of you have this, you're a couple clearly, and you're going to be working together. So
I think it would have been more interesting. I mean, I guess they're celebrities, so it would be harder to do. But remember, I don't remember which season of the Traitors. I think it was Australia, where there was a couple that was on there together, but they didn't tell anybody that they were a couple. And on another iteration, there was a mother-son combination, and like they haven't told anybody that they are on the season together. So
yeah.
I would have preferred, I guess it would be less likely because they are celebrities, if they just didn't tell anybody that they were together.
Yeah, I don't think they could hide it, but yeah, I
Yeah.
like these secret relationships. With the other one that you're talking about with the mother son, jaw dropped. I especially
I
because
mean, they look identical when you hear the news, but
especially because I'm obsessed with the mother,
she
and
looks like Anna Winter.
and I'm obsessed. And so, but the other one where it was the guy and the girl, I feel like that it did get out that they were a couple, or maybe like one of them
Yeah,
went.
I think the boyfriend spilled it or something.
Yeah, like he used it as like at a breakfast. He like stood up and said,
Yeah.
and she was like, "What the hell are you doing?" kind of a thing. So it's with hidden secrets. There's so much drama that can come from it. So and so much editing that you can do around that, which we love.
Hi, Diva. Hi, everybody else in the chat. If that you're here, but you haven't said hi yet. Hello, hello. Thanks for joining us on this first 3-episode recap here.
3 episodes I watched back to back and was like, "Where's my fourth?" Like I just need.
I did want more.
Yeah.
I wanted them all to have dropped, to be honest. I need to
Yeah.
know how it all concludes. I don't know if I can deal right now waiting another 2 months to get the end of the season.
I just how much are they airing and when? Like,
It's
are they
one
doing?
episode a week now.
So they were just doing 3 all at once and then one episode. Oh wow, okay, I didn't know. Okay.
Brutal, 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 brutal. So the Traitors selection process begins. Dan, of course, wants to be a traitor. Sandra wants to be a traitor. Max, he wants to win. Okay. And a lot of other people we didn't get to see. But now there was a clip that was floating around on the internet. I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but it was Janelle talking about how she would love to be a traitor. And so I was thinking, like, oh, Janelle is going to be a traitor because, like, or a recruited traitor because I hadn't seen that clip yet, but I don't know if they just had like, release clips of all the interviews. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So everybody puts their fold on, and he starts walking around, and he's doing his fake outs, and he's like pretending and moving his arm. How do you feel of Alan's presentation of the selection process?
I love it, and I like how this is this, how they select the traders, because people read into it, which I'm sure we'll get into so much, and like made up things that they read into, and sometimes you can just fall victim to, well, we do see that. So, falling victim into someone's just mind going, and you have that blindfold on and you're not seeing things. You can just come up with whatever imaginary things you want in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And which is also, could be a strategy, but, yeah. So it's a lot of anticipation. I'm like, whose shoulder is he going to tap? Imagine he taps your shoulder and you don't feel it. But
I think like if someone tapped the other shoulder in that situation, I would have shivers up and down my entire body, like tremors. It would be very, very visceral.
And then you have to take the blindfold off, and they always act like they've never seen before in their life, or like, because that somehow how helps them not being a traitor. like if the traitors took their mask off or something, like they're just like, like they're new to this world.
Yeah, newborn baby. Now he selects Dan. I was shocked that he selected Dan. Not that like obviously Dan would be the obvious pick to be a traitor. So we said that he's either obviously going to be picked as a traitor or like definitely not picked as a traitor because it's too obvious, right?
Right.
I think it was a wrong pick. But now it could have been Dan. Like the only way that I'm playing this season is if I'm a traitor. Maybe that was in his contract or something. I think that it was a misstep here.
When our preseason little thing that we have, I said, I thought it was going to be 3, and I was right about 2 out of the 3, because I said it's going to be someone who's obvious. That's Dan. I said it's going to be one of the housewives. That's our next one. And then the third one I thought would be someone low key, but that was only if the producers were picking and not if they were picking each other. So I was right about 2 of them. I think it fits the bill. I think there's too many standout personalities, but I did say when they picked Dan, I was like, oh, they really want Dan to win this season. Like, are they trying to do like a whole like, make it obvious? It allows him to really have his run at it where he like controls and can control absolutely everything. But is that also a little bit of a setup to fail, because this is a different type of game, and he might think he's like fantastic at, he might want to have another Dan's funeral or something to save himself, but is he able to do it? I think is he able to do it? That big question that is really enticing to see him as a traitor, because I was surprised as well, but I also knew that they would probably go for him or Janelle or
Sandra
or so. Yeah.
I get it. Like, I totally agree with you in like your assessment as how they were going to choose these traitors. I just felt that like Dan was just so obvious. And I guess like the fact that not many people know his game, it's not as obvious to them. But if I was on the season with him, I would know immediately that he was a traitor.
Well, why is he being so quiet? Like that, that's the thing that comes up, and is how quiet he's. I'm like, I don't know that I know Dan to being so quiet. I mean, that would make me suspicious of him.
100%. And this comes a little bit later, but my friend Mikey St. Croix, I work with him at Sunwing. He's here in the chat, and he's bringing up something that I was thinking myself, is that Janelle knows that Dan is a traitor and is keeping it in her back pocket for later. I kind of agree with this, because that's how I would play the game. Shoot, I hope nobody's listening that I ever play a game with, is that I would do my best to figure out obviously who the traitors were, and buddy up with them and be like, I know you're a traitor, or you're faithful for sure. Like, go and target other people that they suggest, like seem really gullible, and then get them out at the end, right?
Well, that's my game. I've played an online Traitors game with people for a month, and I teamed up with a traitor, and it got me to the end because they, as someone who's like murderable, and I was told afterwards that that person saved me. You want to, like with Janelle, you can make sure that you're not being murdered, because if they think they control you, like if Dan thinks I can control Janelle, or he might want to recruit her later on, either or, he's not going to allow her to be murdered. So I loved when it was him. And then they also spoke about working together, because whether she's aware of it or not in this moment, it will protect her from being murdered. Although I don't know if she'll need it if she keeps winning every shield. But
we're gonna be talking a lot about that shield moment.
It's a good place to be, like under the wing of or working alongside with a traitor. And if you secretly know it's them, all the better.
Our next traitor pick was Phaedra. And so this was definitely a surprise to me when we were doing our card assessment predictions. She got the Fool was one of her cards. The Fool is the beginning of the journey. And so we were thinking like maybe she was going to be out first. Maybe she's going to be banished first. We were wrong. She was going to be selected as one of the first traitors. I was surprised that she was chosen, but the producers knew better than I did, because they chose correctly, I feel, for this one.
Yeah, it's that lawyer within her. I don't know. I wasn't familiar with her, but it's cool, calm, collected, likable. I think a lot of people just until they really have to start digging in, and it's a much smaller crowd, they will never suspect her.
I mean, not never, but like not right now.
Until it's small, until it's like narrowed down, because it's just, even when they talk about like they were talking about by the third episode, let's look at the quiet people, and still it's like no one's bringing her up
at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they just don't think that the producers would choose her because she's not from a competitive reality show. Like maybe. I don't know. Actually, I don't know why they're not looking at her, or maybe they're not showing anybody having any doubt with them.
Yeah, I would love to hear as to why.
Well, pick up your phone and click on the link, Joseph. So Janelle's pissed that she wasn't chosen as a traitor. I was a little bit surprised because, like, I'd seen that clip, but I like seeing Janelle on my screen. However, I'm going to get her, and so I hope that she gets to stay on this season for a long time.
And I like the kind of like Janelle as a competitor having to power through things. And I think it makes her look like not what she's done so far, which we haven't gotten to, makes her look like not a traitor, which is good for her. And I don't know. I just feel like because of how she plays, if she was a traitor, would it be too obvious? Maybe. So
well, I think in general, it's better to be a recruited traitor than to start off the game as a traitor. Yeah. Because for me anyways, because like I played Secret H, I was terrible as H. I was just different. And so I think it would be the best for people to know how they act as a faithful, so that when they became a traitor, they could just keep acting the same. Yes. But when you don't know how you would be as a faithful, having all that extra information and like, oh, I'm just going to like be quiet now and take in all the information. Like, that's not how you would be as a faithful. You'd be like, no. Like, you would be presenting yourself and like how you feel about things and having a point of view. Yeah. And so I think that if Janelle gets recruited later, that would be a better thing for her if she wants to win the game. I don't think she'd start off as a traitor well.
As long as you're able to not shift and keep it consistent. But I have a hot take. We saw, and I think it's in the first episode, after they just kind of picked people and they were running around being like, are you a traitor? Are you a traitor? We saw Janelle speak to Parv and say, you're not a traitor, are you? No, I don't think you're a traitor. But if you are, recruit me.
No, so was Trishelle.
Oh, was it Trishelle?
Yeah, it's Trishelle.
In my head, I thought it was Parv. And I'm like, is she going to be? But I was like, it doesn't matter who she's speaking to. But I was like, I'm like, she's really going for that. I want to be recruited. And I wonder if, because you were talking about earlier with that clip and everything, I'm like, I wonder if she is going to be recruited at some point. I wonder if that was like a little like moment where they were putting in and saying like she might actually be recruited, because I do think that she could be recruited by Dan if he feels like he needs that help. And I agree with you. Like, I think she would be a much better recruit than she would be as originally a traitor.
Because
So
yeah, she
I'm
knows how she
hoping
defends
for it.
herself, right? Like she knows like when people are coming for her, she'd be like, ah, like you know the faces that Janelle, like the absurd, like how dare you? Like she gets these indignant faces on when people accuse her of some things, and so she will know that she does that, and so I think
Yeah.
it'll just be easier for her to play herself when she knows how she acts at these round tables.
Yeah. Janelle's faces at the round tables are everything. Someone's accusing her of something, you know.
Janelle. So the traitors are not yet complete. They are going to do one murder, and then they're also going to be recruiting one person to be their third. Well, they don't know it's the third, but their final traitor to conclude their traitorous set. So at this point, who were you thinking that Phaedra and Dan might want to recruit?
Did we have the options at this point? Like, were they talking about it yet?
Not yet. Like
Yeah, so I thought that I'm trying to think of what I was. Yeah, so I thought that like I knew that Dan, I felt like was going to get his way with what he wanted, because I thought he'd be a little bit more forceful in the Trader Tower when they were to discuss it. So I was just like, who would benefit Dan? And there's two ways of going about it. It's either someone that you want to potentially set up to throw under the bus, or someone that you need to help you out if he feels like maybe he felt like Phaedra's, not the gamer that he needs. And I kind of feel like who they went with, without saying it yet, it kind of is both at the same time. Is someone that can be thrown under the bus, and someone that can help him in more of a strategic gamer element. But it's all about these different circles, and we've talked about that as well. And we see in the third episode that some of these traders are in different circles, so it's hard for them to get together and discuss certain things. So I thought that he would probably pick someone that he can buddy up with. Yeah.
Victoria's here. Hi, Victoria. She's asking, do we think that expressing interest in being recruited could make Janelle a target?
It's too many people, though. Yeah, I think it could be, especially when like a recruitment happens. You can be like, well, you were going around saying that you wanted to be recruited forever. So, it's I don't mind it a little bit at the beginning, like she was doing, but yeah, just
it's just a stop now.
Yeah.
Like I think she was saying that in the moment because they were looking for a third person, right? I don't think that she's going to continue be saying this throughout the rest of the game. Like, oh, recruit me. Like I think it was just because they're looking for their third person. So, yeah, I think that she knows better than to continue with that train of thought or those words. Janelle suspects John because she's sitting next to John, and apparently his breathing was the breath of a traitor. What do you think about her reasoning behind his breathing and him being asthmatic and
his asthma?
Specifically like.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like we also saw Trishelle comment on who was it? No, it was who was
Tamara? Which one?
Someone was talking about how they heard someone kind of like stop and lift up the flap.
Oh, it's Larsa.
Larsa. And so Larsa
she was talking about Parvati.
Parvati, yeah, exactly. And so like but the thing is, some people are like, well, there's no evidence, like you're just going on hearsay. Yes, but there is never going to be evidence. This isn't the mole. This isn't like where you can be like, oh, I saw you sabotaging, or like, why did we lose this money? There's never going to be evidence. So you have to go on whatever you want to go on. And to me, it's like, it doesn't matter if you're getting out faithfuls. You just need to position yourself the best, because ultimately you can just get rid of the traitors at the end as long as you're not outnumbered. And if you have people that you can trust with you, because if you just get rid of the traitors anyway, they're going to recruit. So there's going to be more and more and more until you get down in size. So just having the right faithfuls in the game is probably the most important to you, regardless of if the traitors are there or not. And have fun with it. If you need to target people because of their breathing or because of Alan's, fabric on his garments, the pacing of his steps. I don't know. Like, just make sure you're keeping who you need in the game, and having a good idea of who the traitors are. I liked knowing who the traitors were in my game. This was my hope. And then holding on to that, because if you get rid of them, then you don't know who the traitors are when they're recruiting.
Absolutely. Again. It's like you want to know where the secret hidden immunity idols are. Like you want to know who has them. And if they get used, then there's somebody else can find it. You don't know where that power
exactly.
is. So 100% you want to keep those faithfuls in the traitors in the game and get rid of people that whatever.
Right. If it's a traitor who's in the game and it's not dangerous to you and they'll probably work with you and not want you out, then I wouldn't get rid of them. Only if they're dangerous and I know they're a traitor, I'm like, well, this is my chance to look, So yeah, there's many different elements. And the breathing thing I thought was really interesting. I was worried for Janelle a little bit. I'm like, Janelle, don't go too hard, too strong, too fast,
Also, though, Larsa, I think Larsa is not used to other women being able to clap back, because like she's coming for Parvati and Parvati is not having it. And like I love the fact that Parvati's going to stand up for herself and not get bulldozed by Larsa, who has a bit of a big mouth, you know what I mean? So I was like, you get her, Parvati, like stand your ground. She even told Parvati said, she's like, yeah, I'm not the one to be messing with.
Yeah.
Love it.
And Parvati does it in a way that's like not like it's a way that you would think you would if you were in the right, it's not like over the top, it's not going off the handle kind of a thing. So yeah.
Miss Brown Sugar thought that Janelle and Larsa were both reaching, but of course there's nothing to base your guesses on. Absolutely. I know, I'm just like breathing. But like I guess like I might breathe weirdly if I was a traitor. I'd be like, like I don't know if I would be able to make it through that selection process and be normal. I couldn't be a traitor to begin with. I could only be a recruited traitor.
I think if you convince yourself in your head that you're a faithful, even if you're a traitor, and really don't put on the traitor hat until you're in that tower.
Conclave, yeah.
Yeah. I would. I mean, I think you can get away with it. Like it's like you really have to embody a faithful and go around and being like, who are these traitors? Even though you are the traitor. Like
actually, that is what Dan really should have done. Is that he should have used the time when he was the traitor, but he didn't know who the other traitors were. He wasn't really a traitor yet. You know what I mean? He hasn't done anything traitorous yet. He doesn't know who his secret group is. So he could have been like all out faithful, because like he could have just started to get a feel for what it's like to be a faithful. And so, yeah, I think he should have used that opportunity to maybe develop his faithful persona a bit better.
Yeah.
So wait, yeah, I'm just reading Parvati's response. Like, you're barking up the wrong tree. She did not hear shit. Like, Chantele and Janelle are talking, and that's when Janelle says they're walking down the hallway, and Janelle says, like, if you are a traitor, recruit me. Larsa's holding court, telling everybody about the Parvati situation. Whatever. Dan may want to use Larsa as a decoy. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is that like, yeah, maybe bring Larsa in there as the third traitor, and then you could just like kick her to the curb right away. You know what I mean? And like, then you're going to break up that couple. And I was like, these people that are being kind of vocal might get chosen to be a traitor because they already have some heat on them. And so that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, throw someone under the bus if you need to. Then there'll be another recruitment. It just adds a lot of wild card elements to it that people will be panicking about, especially if there's some heat on you. But yeah, I think but ultimately I do feel like Dan wants to like kind of play it with someone, and it's, and more than just Phaedra. And so, yeah, that's why I thought he might pick someone that's he can buddy up with.
Yeah, that he knows, maybe not personally, but like in the reality TV world.
Yeah.
Janelle's talking about John with Phaedra and Peter. It was just like funny just seeing all these people just talking about these, knowing who the traitors were. I mean, like, you're talking about John. You really think that the show is going to give John the role as traitor, Janelle? I don't think so. And then I was like, oh, poor Bergie. I'd already sent you this clip when Bergie and Ekansu were talking, and Ekansu was just making him nervous, and he's spilling martinis all over himself. Delicious.
Bright red. And the fact that they commented on that too, I was, because before it even happened, I was like, Bergie's just going to be like, I think it mentioned it in the preseason assessment. It was like, he just goes bright red, and you like couldn't never be a traitor. You would know it instantly.
So it was the first mission where Tamra was unwell, where they had to gather these floating puzzle pieces, put them together, and set it on fire for $30,000. There's going to be 3 shields that are available. So you did get your wish. Firstly, well, not your wish in the fact that this was the same challenge that they did on the UK version, season 2, but your wish that they had 3 shields that were available throughout the mission that anybody was going to be able to get. So
Yeah,
how do you feel about
armory.
this? No
Yeah,
armory. The armory is kind of like whack. Yeah.
Yeah, like the armory, like I like the idea of winning a trip to the army, but the same thing, like I said before, it's allowing them to be in. That's just like, oh, you took and they weren't like you had to go out of your way to take a chance, but you took your chance, and then you could pick a box that, or if your team wins, you could pick a box. This is more cutthroat. This is like Janelle got herself out of that rope. Like she gets tied up regularly and went right for it. And it was like dead set, and I want to see that. I want cutthroat. I want people, throwing people aside to get those shields. And, so I think it adds so much more to the game. And I'm so glad that they got rid of the armory and the shields are there right in your face. So that there's no taking a chance. If you get it, you get it,
So, as you mentioned, the guards are going to be tying them up to these posts before they can start this challenge. How many minutes? They had, 40 minutes to do this? I didn't write it down.
40, 45, something like that. Yeah.
We have Fergus, the groundsman, return as his handy sidekick. How do we feel about Fergus?
Yeah, it's just like a creepy, like bigger guy. Like it's just, yeah, it's good.
It's perfect in my opinion. So the guards start tying them up, and as soon as Chanel gets out of there, she bolts, beelines for that damn shield, and she doesn't make it subtle at all. She's going for it. I feel like this was the challenge type challenge.
For sure.
Bananas and CT were in their wheelhouse. Firstly, they have to get out in these rowboats and go and gather these floating puzzle pieces and then pulling them to the base where they're putting them all together. Like, I thought it was a good challenge, and it was very challenge-like. It was down to the wire, though, like the UK version. Do you think that they just didn't get it and like they just put that timer on?
I'm not saying they didn't get it. I'm just saying, was there like actually like a second left? I don't think so. I think it could have been tight. It could have been a minute. It could have been I think we saw someone say later, like, oh, there was less than a minute left. So I don't think they could lie to them, because that would come into like cheating and whatnot. So I do think it was under a minute. I just don't think it was a second. Like they say they were, because I'm like, what are the chances that the UK version was like the last 15 seconds and this one was the last second? And I mean, no way. So yeah.
Exactly. So CT and Bananas obviously are kind of taking charge of like the rowing. They both have a separate team. Burgalicious is still tied up.
That was the best part of this challenge, is that it's like you have all this happening on. People are well into they're getting the pieces, they're floating, and then you see Phaedra and it was someone else untying Bergie. He's the only one who's still the only one.
Right, Bergie. And so they do finally get him out, and then they started, because they had to find the map. So the map is in these bottles. There's like 300 bottles that have pieces of paper in them, and only, I believe, one of them has the map, or like the grid, to be able to solve this very simple puzzle. Deontay also goes for a shield. There was a shield, 2 shields out in the water, and CT, I was like, I laughed when CT went for the shield. They both he's just like, I'm out of here, let me go for the shield. And like, just,
do I do it? And then he's like, and then you just see him dive in, and yeah.
Can you give me your CT impersonation again? This is good.
Oh, I won't be able to recreate it. Rewind and just, yeah.
Everybody was very disorganized with this challenge. When they finally got all the pieces to the area, multiple people are trying to say where these puzzle pieces go. They didn't really do a good job with putting this puzzle together, but they managed to get it together in the nick of time at the last second, and they are able to detonate this puzzle piece. So what do you think of the challenge on the whole, and how do you feel about Deontay, CT, and Janelle being the shield holders?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like that Janelle's going for it right away because I want to see what that kind of style plays off as. And yeah, and people that are doing well and helping this challenge out, I'm like, well, maybe they won't, banish because they feel like they might need them. So I would just want to see these like comp beasts of people really play this out and see what happens. And I thought it was a good, what was it, 30,000 they won?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was a good, boost in morale for all of them to have like, this win right away. Yeah.
CT thinks him and Bananas are clearly the MVP of this challenge. And so they're both kind of hoping that being an asset to winning them money will keep them safe for a little bit. So in the card ride back, Bananas is mad at Janelle for going for the shield. Whatever. He's probably just mad that he didn't go for the shield.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's part of the game. Like, I'd just be like, I can go for the shield and still get back and help. Like, I'm going to go for the shield.
For sure. No, I would. I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like, what are you costing someone? Like a minute of not untying someone else? Like, is it that big of a deal? When she was just on bottle duty as well. So it's kind of like they were still getting there. I don't think anyone could have faulted her because what could have Janelle done with, finding that bottle earlier and knowing what they're still gathering pidces.
Exactly. I mean, they had so much time that like her 30 seconds, 1 minute did not cost them $30,000. Didn't cost them anything. Danica here is saying that CT was right. They will need them for the challenges, but oh so wrong when it comes to murder. Mm-hmm.
Anything can happen with murder, yeah.
Phaedra has a mild crush on CT, which I am here for. Hopefully Phaedra is going to be keeping CT safe for a long while. And Peppermint has so many good outfits. Her looks. How were you feeling about Peppermint? Because you were very excited to see her on this season. How is your first 45 minutes of Peppermint so far?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. Peppermint was outspoken, but I didn't feel like was contributing in a way that people were able to recognize at that challenge. So I was like a little worried. But yeah, I think it was probably the second episode with Peppermint's outfit that I was like, "Oh, Peppermint looks good." Specifically, but it's yeah, I love Peppermint. Love.
So at the end of this episode, we do get like the short list of who they're considering to be the traitors. So Dan was thinking that Janelle could be a good traitor, of course. Maybe that Parvati, he considers her to be the female version of him. And Sandra is no joke. So it was really funny, though. I don't know who Sandra was talking to, but someone brought up Max, and Sandra's like, yeah, Max is so irrelevant. Sandra just does not have any time for Max, which I thought was funny. So we see the traitors be sworn in. The short list. Oh, Larsa did make the short list. Larsa, Janelle, Sandra, and Parvati. And because they're thinking that they have to break up Larsa and Marcus, which they do. So that's a thing. And yeah, this is Welcome to the Dark Side. Next episode, we are in. So I was thinking that it was going to be Janelle that was going to be sworn in because, as I mentioned, that clip that I'd seen seemed like a clip that you'd show before someone being recruited. But they chose Parvati. So her intention with going into the season, she's wearing a lot of headbands, is she said that it's because she wants to look innocent.
Oh, so people have been asking about that. They're like, does she normally wear headbands? Like, who aren't familiar? And I'm like, we normally see her on Survivor, and you're not wearing headbands on Survivor like that. So
unless you're Erica.
Well, true. But I'm like, I guess you're I hadn't heard that. So she
Oh,
wants to
hold on,
innocent.
pause for a second. Okay, Josh is reminding me what happened here. So Josh is saying it was when Max walked in the room and Sandra and Dan were talking, and they invited him to talk, and he just said no thanks and walked away. Sandra was like, he's irrelevant. Yes, okay, yes, that's exactly what happened. Which was also really weird, though. Like Max, like, okay, maybe you're looking for somebody, but like if you go in and you're like, oh, are you guys talking about something
Yeah, he just
serious?
doesn't.
And then
Max is like no nonsense, which I love. But he's a lone wolf, I think, and just kind of doing his own thing.
Danica thinks, loves Sandra like we all do, but thinks that she'll either win this or go out early. What's your prediction right now in Sandra?
Well, I felt, I mean, like end of 3 episodes, I would say that I was worried about the last thing that was done. But having said that, so far overall, I thought she was really under the radar, and I like that she wasn't sticking, out too much. So I'm like, yeah, I think she could potentially do well. Having said that, one of the very last things that had happened at the banishment roundtable, I was like, ooh, I don't know. That kind of puts her, potentially be talked about again. So I don't know.
So Mikey's saying, I'm loving all the Sandra side eyes whenever Parv is in the room. Great editing. Sam is definitely building a faithful army. Wells. I do believe that that's kind of what's going on though. Like, and we'll be able to discuss it in a bit, about her faithful army, and then able to really get people to vote with her over the way that she wants. I think that's going to be powerful, but depending on who sees that, it could be like, she has too much power. So, well, hopefully she'll be able to make it through. Maybe she'll get recruited to save her from getting banished.
Yeah, well,
Not
that's
banished, meaning
like
murdered.
if you have the traitors as part of that, they'll be like, Sandra controls all of this, murder her.
So Miss Brown Sugar finds it funny that she was trying to come across as innocent. I found that the headband's a bit distracting, disorienting, perhaps because I'm not used to that as Parv's look. Then again, I'm only used to her look as a castaway. Well, do I look more innocent in this headband?
Well, you're not doing all of Parv's. The like she like walks around doing these eye things.
I think it makes her look like a traitor, to be honest, because she only really does it when she's a traitor.
Like all these eye things. I'm like, what is happening?
I'm like, did you get some filler? What's going on here? So Phaedra is ready to murder, cause confusion. They're considering maybe Kevin. I was like, yeah, murder Kevin. He's not he's somebody that you can just murder and it's fine, Like,
Oh,
yes,
for
I
sure.
said that I like everybody on the season, but like Kevin can go. Like,
I was also saying murder Kevin, please. Yes.
So Dan thinks that he can control what Phaedra basically control the traitors and what Phaedra wants to do. He suggests bananas, and she doesn't really put up a fight against that. Dan is also considering Peppermint. I'm like, what? Why are you considering Peppermint, Dan? Get out of here. But Phaedra trusts his judgment, so she's kind of going to let him take the lead on who to murder.
Yeah.
Were you pissed though when Dan was saying Peppermint?
Well, here's the thing. Like, what did I watch Peppermint in another show too? I mean, she hosts another one as well, but she like something, and she's always like out early. And I'm like, why? Why won't you just let me enjoy Peppermint for the season? Like, it's just so I was concerned out of the gate for Peppermint. And I'm like, can you just leave her alone? Yeah.
So in the morning, the breakfast is definitely my favorite part of each episode because I love seeing the traitors act because they're all actually very bad. When you watch them acting, they're awful. But it's just my favorite part just to see what people are saying, what people are doing, what people are wearing. My favorite part of the whole episode is breakfast. Mm-hmm.
And the other thing too is like it's probably happening in and around now is that because before they actually recruited someone, when they had recruited someone, but they didn't know who, or the recruitment didn't know who the actual traitors were. You had Dan go around talk to them, And I at first was like, I wonder why this is happening. I know he can't say anything to the person that he's recruited yet, but why is that happening? And then I'm realizing, I'm like, oh, this is a perfect moment to assess what people's lies look like to you. And so I think taking it to the breakfast, as you're saying, I think that the breakfast is a perfect opportunity to really study everyone else and try to see who's like people have tells. I mean, I'm not going to bring up the UK version and with specifics, but there's someone in the UK version who always touches their face when they're lying. And it's like these little things that you really could pick up on. And the breakfast is a good moment to really study everyone. So I do enjoy it. Yeah.
I mean, it would be really hard to be a traitor. How do you think you'd be as a traitor, like in person? Like I know you played some of these games online, where you've had to deceive, but how do you think you'd play in person as a traitor? A
Yeah.
starting traitor.
Yeah, I think that I go into these things knowing that I give off like
Traitor.
naturally a traitor vibe. So I actually have to act differently to be friendlier, to be more open, to be more vulnerable and innocent, to not show my true self, which is a natural traitor. um, so I would be doing that. I would just be,
Normal,
thank
like
you.
just like
I would no, I would be like having to be nicer and like, just being like really a team player because my natural, thing would be like people like you're a traitor.
you're like
So
I didn't do anything. I'm
well
just sitting here.
when I played the mole, when I played traitors, instantly people thought I was a traitor, instantly people thought I was a mole. And so, sometimes you want that and sometimes you don't. Listen, I made it to the end of both games, but I and won one of them, but yeah, to answer your question, I think I'd do well.
I think that you'd have to like teach me because like I just would be so bad at an original traitor. I think.
You think so? Yeah.
Well,
You'd
like
want that time to be able to sit into it and then be recruited.
yeah,
Mhm.
I think that would be like I can imitate.
Mhm.
I don't know how I would act with having the information that I'm a traitor
But
already, and I feel like I have like a half smile on my face the whole
but
time.
think of it as like like a movie script, like a TV show. Like when you formulate what
That's
that is
true.
and tell your audience, like from the beginning, like this is the reality. So if you say this is who Chantele is at the beginning, then people will just buy into it. They'll believe it.
It's true.
And so as long as you're consistent with that and don't falter, I think you'd do great. I think you'd be much better than I would as a
Yeah,
trader.
no way. You're so good
Yeah,
at being
because you're likable. You're likable. I mean, but if listen, you recruit me, I recruit you, and then together, hello.
I mean, okay, but I love being in cahoots, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, like, and then like having like a joint plan going down and like going and like and executing, I can do stuff like that really well. And doing deceit in that way really well. But
Yeah.
I think it just would be hard, uh, just in the beginning, like how I guess maybe it's because Dan is, in my opinion, playing this quite poorly. It just makes me nervous because I would think that he would have his finger on the pulse on how to play this better. And
Yeah.
so I'm like,
Well,
if he can't do a good job, I'm like, I definitely can't do a good job.
that's why I think he wanted to pick someone as a trader who could help him.
And be in cahoots with, yeah,
Yeah.
make it
And to
more
work
fun.
together and maybe say like, hey, by the way, and we do see that like people are saying your name or people are, they're saying you're being too quiet. That wasn't coming from Phaedra. That was, coming from his recruitment. So yeah, I think it will work into his favor to have someone who can really like bounce ideas off of and also just, point out like you're not acting like the Dan that I think people are anticipating. You're being too quiet. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We learned at this breakfast that Phaedra is a lawyer, and I was like, this is good. Like her being a lawyer is awesome. It makes me like her even more. It makes me understand
yes.
even more why she was selected as a traitor. I'm all in on lawyer Phaedra. We see Trishelle retelling the Peppermint story. So it was a little joking conversation that they were having, talking about like all the outfits, and Peppermint was saying like, she has outfits for days, and Trishelle's like, oh, your outfits are better than mine, and like, just like they had like a little bit of a banter about like, outfits, and Trishelle said something to the effect of, well, if I'm banished, if I'm murdered tomorrow, like, it's you, because of the fact that, just like kind of joking, like, 'cause she wants to be the only person that has all the best outfits.
Right.
I thought it was very playful from Trishelle. I didn't think that it was as she made as big of a face as Trishelle made it out. But what did you think about this interaction, and then hearing about Trishelle retelling the story again?
Yeah, well, Trishelle needs to go. But Trishelle ticks me off a little bit because I'm like, first of all, don't come for my Peppermint, but also, and like constantly bringing it up and making something out of nothing. But also, like, Peppermint's, first and foremost, like, how we know Peppermint is being a drag queen. It's like over the top. It's those expressions. It's the culture. It's like, you know what I mean? So to accuse a drag queen and of overreaction, I was like, go watch Drag Race. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, what are you talking about? But I don't even think it was
slight
there.
microaggression, right? Slight microaggression.
Oh, I
Like,
mean, like, you're talking about like a black transgendered drag queen. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's Trishelle. Shut the hell up. Like, I
yeah,
was
like this like little white woman from the real world.
right, exactly. So I was fuming on Peppermint's behalf because I'm like, you need to just stop. And I don't, and it would be one thing if it was a tactic. Like, I could understand it a little bit more if Trishelle's like, oh, I've selected this person for whatever reason, and maybe the opportunity arose, and I want to put the pressure on them for the round table, whatever. But I don't think it was. I just think this was like Trishelle being Trishelle. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that for all the reasons, like, I think it was a full-on microaggression. It's someone is mentioning, oh, Sophie here's mentioning that this fight with Peppermint was similar to the one that she had with Anissa on the challenge. I don't remember what the yeah, wait, Anissa did say something to her, right? They got into a fight because Anissa, did she have a tone with Trishelle or something? What happened there?
Right. Something like, yeah.
And like they got into like a big fight, and she's like, "Oh, you're gonna hit me" or something.
And
I can't remember how it went down.
yeah, and I love Anissa. But yeah, it's like, yeah, Trishelle just needs to, I agree with you. I think it's not on purpose. It's just who Trishelle is, with these microaggressions and whatnot. And it just drives me absolutely crazy because she has no interest in like seeing that. And yeah, anyway. Trishelle's like my villain of this season so far. So
well, now also though, yeah, she's the villain of the season, and
Trashelle.
that's what they used to call her, like back in the day, because she was a little trashy. So yeah, the next morning though, didn't think that it would make sense that Peppermint was a traitor, if to murder or not to murder Trishelle. You know what I mean?
And then I blame Dan because Peppermint was on the table, they always bring in the people last who are on the table, which, how does no one figure that out? Like, they're like, I must have been considered. I was one of the last ones in the room. But because of that, it allowed everyone else to talk about her without her being there, you know? And so I'm like, oh, that's just bad circumstances. You're not like, if Peppermint was first in to the breakfast room, this might not have snowballed as it did, So I was like, and that's, yeah, it's just, but that's how that goes. Like, if you're up for banishment or you're up to being murdered, I mean, you are usually one of the last ones to be brought into the room. And so she was like, got there and she's like, what?
So lovable Nikki though about Trishelle here is saying at this point it's on purpose. It's been too many years of this behavior from Trishelle. Yeah, I mean, it was like she was so quick to jump on Peppermint's facial expression as her being a traitor for, and
but I don't think it's
a microaggression.
I don't think it's a strategy purpose. I don't think she's like choosing like, this is what I'm doing. I think it's just that it's like
she wasn't comfortable with
her subconscious
Peppermint
exactly,
and was threatened by whatever she felt that she gave off,
and decided to make her the outcast. Like, oh well, you're the traitor then. If I'm like, Trishelle, go away. Trishelle.
Yeah. I mean, she does at the end of the next episode have her finger on the pulse again Actually, like she is smarter than I thought with some of her rationale. But this with Peppermint, I was just kind of pissed off because I was like, you're just looking like a racist white girl right now, Trishelle. Like, get it together. Like you're 45
I
or
agree.
44,
Yeah.
turning 45.
Yeah.
She's lived a long enough life to kind of realize that she's, especially after Black Lives Matter and all that was going on for such a long time, with having a lot of awareness around how people have been treating Black people in society for centuries.
Yeah.
Like,
And
I feel like I wish she had some education.
And in situations like this might be a weird thing that I do, but when I'm always trying to assess the situation, is I remove everyone else from the room and replace them with 10 other Trishelles, like the person, who we're thinking of. And how would that have turned out if it was that same person, but they were doubled or tripled or quadrupled? And I'm like, it would have been horrific. And that's how I always know who the problem is. Because if we did that with Peppermint and said, like, if we took everyone out of the room and replaced them with a bunch of Peppermints, how would that room have been? Fine. It would have been not an issue. If we did the same with Trishelle, 10 Trishelles in the room, when, it would have been horrific. And so, Trishelle, you're the problem. And so, yeah, I especially with my Peppermint, I'm like, ugh, don't.
It was yeah, it was not good. So the short list was Bananas, Peppermint, and Kevin. Par was thinking that Sandra could be one of the other traitors, because Parvati has now been recruited, but she doesn't know, she wasn't participating in the killing, the murder that was happening at the last conclave. So Bananas, Peppermint, and Kevin are the short list, and there's one less banana coming to breakfast because Bananas was murdered first.
Yeah, I really thought it was going to be Peppermint, and I was
that
shocked.
if it was Peppermint, like that would actually be terrible.
Yeah,
like not good at all. Someone was saying that it should have been Trishelle. I think Trishelle would have been a better idea. Well, no, sorry. Peppermint. Like, if it was Peppermint, it would look like Trishelle was a murderer, which would suck, which is probably why you didn't like that. Or the other way around, to make it look like Peppermint was a murderer and just kill Trishelle. But they did Bananas because they wanted it to be like, oh, like, who is it? And like put mystery. I think it was a bad idea. I think they should have kept Bananas a little bit longer for the show.
Yeah. If you think right. So I agree with you. Bananas would have been better for the show. But also, if you think Bananas could get onto you, you don't want to recruit him. And absolutely, then get rid of him if you think he's like coming close or will find you out. But I think it's a bad move as well, because I think Bananas is someone who people naturally suspect. So you're taking someone out of the game that I don't think was onto you, but also who is a potential, like, for someone to look at, which is always a mistake. You don't want to murder people who are potential traitors.
Yeah, him being out first was shocking. I thought it was a bad move. So AK-47 here, as a fan, he's mad that they're taking out Bananas, but they felt that it was a good reason to take him out. I feel that like Dan might have been a little bit jelly over Bananas being.
I was gonna say, do you also think that like the fact that there's 3 challengers there, that came into it, or the fact that like Dan might be like, no, Bananas like history and like everything about him, and being like, I'm the one who took him out. And so do you think any of that came into play? Maybe. But ultimately, if you look at it just straight up, what you should be doing in a Traitors game, I do think it was a bad move.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like, well, especially maybe, okay, let me give Dan some credit maybe here. Because like if Dan's playing this like, I'm only going to speak when spoken to, I'm going to be super quiet here. Bananas is not super quiet at all. Like he will put people in the hot seat. He'll be like, talk. Like he will, if he's not afraid of speaking his mind. And so maybe that's what Dan was afraid of. He doesn't realize that some of these housewives are all equally going to keep pressing him. But maybe that is why, is that like it will be such a stark difference between how Bananas, who he knows is a faithful, is playing this game, and then him trying to be a faithful and just like not suggesting anything. And so maybe taking out Bananas would make him less obvious as a non-faithful. Maybe.
Right.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I think it was a genius move, but yeah. I understand why he did it, but I think that I would have rather just got rid of Kevin. That wasn't really bringing anything to the season. I would have liked to see a little bit more of what Bananas was going to contribute. I wanted to see if he would be decent with, like, you know, his theories and his strategies. We didn't really just get any of it. So,
well, later on, I was thinking because, you know, if Dan's, because I didn't realize the first episode that he was trying to play this whole like not speaking up and all that kind of stuff move. So I'm like, if you get rid of the obvious faithfuls who are potentially quieter or not doing anything, and that's the game you're trying to play, then that only leaves you. So, I mean, getting rid of the more obvious potential traitors might be a different strategy that I never thought about before. But again, I don't think it was a good idea.
well, and then also, if he's like, I would probably want to take out, as a male traitor, I'd want to take out female like options to leave less option. Like, you're gonna be like, okay, I know there's gonna be at least one woman that's a traitor, right? So if you take out multiple women, then they're gonna point their fingers on the women first.
Women, yeah.
And I think that would have been a better thing for him, instead of dwindling the numbers with the men, so that you'd be like, well, I know Bergie's not a traitor, I know Kevin's not a traitor, I know Peter's not a traitor, so it has to be Dan if those are the only 4 traitors left. You know what I mean? So
and that's the thing. That's a prime example, is like having Bergie there. I'm like, at the end of the day, if it's you and Bergie, are they gonna think that you're the traitor or Bergie? They're gonna think you are. So get rid of Bergie. Like, it's like
you got to keep hitting the people that.
If it's you and Bananas,
they could be like
Bananas, then that could be a toss-up who the traitor is. So you'd want to keep that, and that's first and foremost. And he's not doing that, which is not great.
So CT thinks that he says, guess that means I'm next. Do you think that means CT is next?
No, I just thought that was like a nod. I don't think it was like foreshadowing for anything, but that was just a nod to like the fact that he's, obviously
another
challenger, and but I don't think that's anything.
So Peppermint is explaining why she feels that Bananas could be murdered, and then everybody's like, saying like, "Ooh," I think Janelle said, "Spoken like a true traitor," and everybody's thinking that this is her having a perspective as to why Bananas was murdered is a tell that she is a traitor. What did you think about this logic?
Oh, when Peppermint was, yeah, I mean, I think that you have to be careful of. That is a mistake that she's making. And so, yeah, like the kitchen mistake that we see later, you have to be careful what you say and how you say it and who you're saying it to. So it doesn't mean close up entirely, but you can't just you can't be, kikiing with just anyone, like, they're
watching you.
Yeah, because they are studying every word you are saying, and they will use it against you. So you just have to be a little bit more careful.
So AK here is saying that Phaedra said in the Traitor Aftermath that Dan was afraid of the power Bananas has with his social game, and even she said Bananas is a wild card, that can't be an animal that can't be controlled. Okay,
but you haven't seen Bananas play the Traitors yet, so how do you know? Like, you haven't seen him in this environment where you want to turn on people who are like Bananas, because you don't need to keep them to protect you socially. Like, it is a social game as well, but it's not the challenge, so it's not House of Villains that he was in as well. It's different.
Okay, so Miss Brown Sugars here is saying that Taryn was saying that Dan's demeanor is quiet, and just that us BB fans are used to hearing him talk in diary room sessions, etc.
Because he yells in diary rooms.
Say again?
He yells in diary rooms loudly. That maybe I'm like, who's this Dan that's being quieter? But I mean, but even if it's our perception, if these people know him, which I don't know that they have watched Big Brother, but they would know him from a watcher's perspective. So like, if I was there with Dan, I would be like, he's loud, isn't he? Like, I don't, so
it's not even being loud, but it's the fact that he hasn't been pivoting. People have been saying like, you're too quiet, and his response is like, it's just my demeanor, it's just the way I am. It's like, well, okay, maybe that is the way you are, but people need to hear from you your perspective on things. Say it quietly then. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be yelling your opinion, but like Bergie is actually the type of person that he's pretending that he is, in my opinion. And
Or
so Bergie is still trying to speak up more.
mm-hmm. Yeah, or just regurgitate other people's information, like just so you're saying something without saying something. It's kind of like what Phaedra was saying. She's like, "Yeah, I'm there, I'm present," and I'm just like, you know, nodding and agreeing or whatever. But she's not like actually. And we saw this a couple times. I thought it was hilarious every time it came up. She just wasn't actually saying her own stuff, and
Yeah.
so you can speak and be a part of everything and not look like you're quiet by just regurgitating what other people are saying or recounting facts or asking questions like, what did you think about at the chat? Like, did you think that anyone went for the shield was so and so and so? You're not actually saying a specific name, and you're not just being quiet for them to suspect you.
Yeah, so like if Dad just doesn't have an opinion about things. Like
Yeah.
you can be a quiet person and have an opinion.
Yeah.
And that is what the issue is. He's not giving his opinion. He's not saying like whether he agrees with that assessment. He's not saying that he saw something that was suspect. He's not saying that like that's a silly way to be judging someone as a traitor. Like he's not saying anything. And that is saying traitor. Like, and the fact that he's not realizing it is like he can't just blame that on being a quiet personality.
Because it
You
looks like
still
you're scared to say something that you're gonna get caught, and that's what it's giving, you know?
that's what it's giving because that's what it is. And what it would say to me is, how did this guy get cast on a TV show and he's played multiple times, and how did he win? I'd be like, how did he win? Because he is not playing with us.
Yeah.
He's not playing this game with us. And so if he's not playing this game with us, it's because he's not a faithful. That's what it would read to me. I'd be like, how the hell did this guy win the game if he's not playing with us? And it's like, oh, because he's probably playing with some other people and he's murdering people.
Yeah. Well, everyone else is kind of playing how I suspected that they could play. You know, and Dan's really probably the only one that was aware of going into this that is surprising me with how they are playing. Like with it's just totally different than I thought he would.
Oh, this is bad. Tenica's like, when they asked Dan a question, he responds, good question.
Yeah.
Like buying time to respond. Like he should, if it was me as a traitor and like I know that they're going to be coming for me, I would have answers already planned out for anything that they could possibly be asking me. Right? Not just saying like, oh, I'm quiet.
Yeah, or just, I mean, like I said, just talk about something. Or how like Janelle took him aside and said, "I really want to work with you." He's like, "I really want to work with you too." And just having that moment, who Dan was in that moment with other people.
Yeah. Be like, I trust you. Like, I trust you. Like, we need to work together. Like, let's run scenarios back with each other. Like, maybe just even find one person that could stand up for you and will have a bigger voice than you do. Right?
Although I always see him with what's his name?
Parvati?
Bachelor? No,
Oh,
Bachelor.
Peter.
Peter, yes. I always see him with Peter, and they haven't shown a lot of that. So I wonder if he's like is with Peter quite a bit and they just aren't seeing it, and maybe he's like keeping too much with Peter. I don't know, but like there's a lot of that going on, like walking in and out of rooms with Peter, you know, having like little like sentences here or there with Peter, and I'm like, there's circles, and you need to make sure that you are going to these other circles and really, you know, getting in there and making yourself as a contributor, because everyone's trying to find a traitor and it looks like you're trying not to be caught.
Yep. So we're still at the breakfast table, and Deontay does ask Peppermint to clear the air as to what the situation was with Trishelle. And you know, nothing happens. We do see her strutting and having a little catwalk in front of everybody, looking fierce and amazing. But Alan comes in and mentions that what's not on the breakfast menu is bananas, and bananas picture frame goes to the floor. We see Dan talking to Parvati to suss her skills, and I'm like, man, you don't need to be sussing anybody else's skills but your own. Like, he should be looking more at his skills, because Parvati is going to be doing better than you for sure.
Yeah.
She knows to be talking to people.
Yeah, even with the faces, even with the eyes.
I mean, she's kind of obvious, but I think she's doing a better job, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's Parvati in the back doing like, and then everyone's just like not noticing, talking, and I'm like, what's going on? Yeah.
So Peppermint is definitely coming across as guilty. Is that where when she says the thing? I'm not sure. Is it? Oh no, I wrote it later. Never mind. Okay, so Tamara thinks that John could be a traitor. I'm like, John's not a traitor. Come on, guys. You know how they cast these shows, and it's not going to be John.
Well, it's because of all the breathing and the asthma thing, and we see him running later on, and that run is hilarious. it's like a penguin at full speed, and but it is like really like, wait a minute, you know. So I don't blame her for blaming him, because it does seem really suspicious.
I love the fact though that Sandra is watching Parvati, and like I think Sandra might be Parvati's biggest adversary. Like,
they seem like they're teetering the line of like, do we work together? Do we go for each other? Like, do we work? Like, it just seems like this. What's gonna happen? Like, are we setting? They're setting something up for a big blowout, or do they go after each other? Like, what? Who knows? I'm scared for Sandra, because I'm, Sandra.
Well, it's kind of like I could definitely see like Sandra getting sus of Parvati, and then Parvati just murders her. Just get her murdered, and then be like, obviously the traitors are trying to frame me because they know that Sandra and I have like bad blood, and like she can play that card. And
oh, for sure, yeah, hopefully not, but yeah.
So the next challenge here is all these questions about players. So they have these two scarecrows with like question and 2 potential responses are the players. There are 3 shields up for grabs again. Phaedra and Dan are talking about how the Faithfuls are really revealing a lot about themselves in these answers. They're being completely like honest and very forthright. And I'm like, Dan, take note. Faithfuls are very forthright with who they are and information that they're giving. Mm-hmm. Even Phaedra is quite reserved and doesn't offer a lot of herself out towards the group. And so that, if I was detecting, like, I would be looking for the people that are not offering any information.
Yeah.
So the most influential between Deontay and Peppermint. How do you feel about this one? So Peppermint's group, they're in 3 teams, and Peppermint thought it was going to be her. But her group thought it was going to be Deontay just because he's more famous. But it's what the group says. It's like the most popular out of the group. What do you think about this challenge, and about the fact that they didn't believe Peppermint and then they were wrong? Peppermint was the most influential.
Yeah, again, I think this does not do her any favors, because it...
Hold on, I misspoke. Sorry. Most influential was between Marcus and what's her name? Larsa. And it was Marcus that got one. And then, sorry, there was the most popular player was Deontay versus Peppermint.
Which is like not the same, but similar-ish. But it was both popular. But yeah, I just feel like, it's kind of shady that the producers, pick certain questions. Obviously they have to. Obviously it's for TV, but it's like, again, it's Peppermint, in the spotlight. And because everyone did make the mistake, all the, thinking that it was the other way around. And it was Peppermint. It's like, it puts Peppermint in a situation where you probably don't feel connected to those people, because you're like, well, first of all, I'm the most popular and you all didn't believe me. I don't know. It just, it makes like an outcast of you. And so, and it's just not where Peppermint needed to be. So I was obviously happy that Peppermint was the most popular, but just knowing the dynamics of what this question and them picking wrong and all that creates, I was just like, oh, that's not a good place to be in. It makes you maybe a little defensive. It can throw you off, or paranoid even. It can throw you off your game. Yes, it's a compliment when they answer those questions, that, but at the same time, I was not liking it for Peppermint's game.
Mm-hmm. We do see that with John running, your favorite penguin,
Yes.
and Taryn questioning him, being like, "Look at him run! Like, you don't have an inhaler? Like, he doesn't use an inhaler? You know, with his asthma that he said that he had because he had irregular breathing at the round table." So I just find like people like the detective service with like his breathing is hilarious.
Well, she was like, "Can you? I need my inhaler, John. You sure you don't have one?" He's like, "Nope, nope, not out of breath."
The last question was, who needs to speak up more, Dan or Sheree? I'm like, if the show is calling you out like this, Dan, like, come on, like, give him more, please. But Dan says he's only going to be speaking when spoken to, which I'm like, Dan, I think you have to change your strategy, but we'll see. Dan, though, decides that he's going to make a play for the shield because there's going to be 10 scarecrows. They contain gold bars or whatever, and there's going to be 3 shields on the scarecrows with the hat. And so, but there's like a field, it's called the Field of Death. There's so many scarecrows that they have to kind of go through to get these 10 bars of gold and or the 3 shields. Peter also tries to go for the shield, but it seems like Dan is the only one that actually finds the shield. And together they only received $16,000 in bars from these scarecrows.
So the Dan with the shield thing was interesting because to me it looked like he was copying what he saw in the first round when people went for shields, how it made them look, and people weren't like suspicious of them. And now it felt like he was copying that. He was like, "Oh, I'm going to go for that like double bluff thing." I get that, and I get that strategy, but to me it just makes it look like you're literally copying what happened in the first round, and you've now decided to do it. It just made him more suspicious to me. If I was there, I would have just thought it was more suspicious that this quiet person is going after the shield.
Yeah, it's like I guess what he's not realizing is that he's too comfortable, and this is what people are clocking. He's like, he's acting like if he's so scared, he would be a little bit more like concerned. He'd be like, no, I can't go for the shield. I need to really help them win some money to prove that my worth here, because like I'm not speaking up a lot, but I want them to at least want to keep me in the game because like I'm providing like the money, I'm helping them build up the pot, and so like he's not providing any value to them, like, and then he's going for the shield without helping them, and he's not offering up any like information as to who's the traitor. It's like he's not providing any value, which is what my argument would be to get him out of the game.
And he could have been loud. He could have been like, "Guys, go for the like they did in the UK version, like don't go for the I don't even remember this version, but the hats had like the shields, and then the hearts didn't." And so he'd be like, "Go for," like he could have been like, there were in the UK version people who were being loud to encourage going for the money. And because I know people like Deontay would have been about that, and there are people who really value team players, and they might not see the traitor for the team player, So I just think he's making wrong moves left and right, which really surprises me.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, it really surprises me. So I mean, again, this is not to say that he still can't win. This is not to say that he can't last till the end. I'm just saying he's making it harder for himself.
I would expect Dan to like a fair way to start off the game. I'm going to play this quiet role. I'm only going to be speak when spoken to. But when it's not working, I would expect him to pivot. And he hasn't seemed to adjust his game strategy to quell people's concerns about him. He hasn't done anything to change things up. And so that is what is surprising to me, because we're expecting him to always be throwing Dan's funeral, getting himself out of these situations, when really he's just like, no, I'm just a quiet guy. Yeah. Like what else?
Like he's like the king of like pivot on Big Brother. Like this is like you were going out the door, and this is what you did to make that not happen, which is almost kind of unheard of at that moment. And yet this time, like people are telling you are seeing the signs. People are saying your names, as we see later on, getting brought up, and we have Parvati being like, hey, by the way, like so, and yet you're making all the wrong moves, and his resolve for it is I'm going to do this double bluff actually. And I'm like, that's not, it just
I
seems
think
dated.
being super faithful would have been like the best for him.
Yeah.
Just be like, I'm gonna like ride so hard for these faithful. I'm gonna get the money. I'm gonna be the most valuable faithful. That's the route I would take. I wouldn't be like, oh, the most desperate faithful. Like, let's just get rid of him because he sucks.
Even when he was going up the stairs and there were other people around and he was talking to Parvati, like going up the stairs for the night, he
Yeah.
was like, she was like, oh, are you being worried about being murdered or something? He's like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, there's people around you too. There's other people on the stairs, but and Parvati didn't know
because he has a shield. No,
Parvati didn't even know that. I don't think he had the shield at that point, but he was just like, because she was asking him genuinely, are you worried about, the murder or whatever? Because I don't think this was after he had the shield. But and he was like, nah, I'm good. But just having that kind of moment, and if he did have the shield, just say, oh, well, I have the shield, so I have nothing to worry about. But I don't think he did at this point, but it was just that kind of attitude I noticed when I was watching the show, and I'm like, it just doesn't sit right. And I don't think these people are observant and they're going to pick up on it. And I think they're starting to. So we'll see if now's the time, like episode 4, if he really can get himself out of these situations, because I will forget, but at the end of episode, I'm just going to mention a little bit now. At the end of episode 4, we see or at end of episode 3, we see previews for future episodes. And it does seem, I know it's an edit, but it does seem that there might be 2 people in the tower without Dan who are making a decision. And I was like, is that a really good edit, or is that like a hint? I don't know.
Well, Danica thinks that if Jan changes now, it might look even more suspicious. But like people have amnesia in this game. Like you could switch up your game completely, and as soon as you're not like the main target anymore, like they forget any evidence that they had thought that made you a suspect, and like they're on to the next person that like breathed incorrectly. And so, like I think that he would be able to, if he changed it up a little bit, just be like, I'm just trying really hard. Like I don't want you to think that I don't want to be here, and that I'm a traitor. Like I want you to know, like,
give good reasons behind it. Be like, everyone keeps saying I'm not speaking up, so I'm going to try, and then just do it a little bit and gradually and win people over. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you could change it up on this show. Like people are actually quite forgiving, I find, for certain things anyways. So the group is pretty sus of John and Peppermint. Those are kind of the group shortlist. And then Peppermint misspeaks when she's talking and says like, since I'm a traitor, and I'm like, oh no.
I thought she said
or something like that.
Yeah, I thought, because they said that like it was insinuating, but it was like, I thought it was more like speaking from the perspective of a traitor, because she was saying if the other person wants to, make sure that a faithful goes home, and she's like, oh, then they're like, don't you mean if a traitor goes home? Like, you know what I mean? So it was like from the perspective of a
she misspoke. She just made a mistake. And it's an easy mistake to make, but not when people are looking at ways
the wrong time. At the wrong time. Yeah.
People are just like, what? Was that a Freudian slip? Like, it's just like, oh, she's just probably like,
and
oh,
she's like, yeah, it's a Freudian slip. I'm like, no, just say, don't even say that. Just
say
Freudian
slip means that you are a traitor.
Yeah, just say that just say that you
misspoke.
Got yourself confused with, and you misspoke, and you quickly corrected yourself. But of course, everyone's going to blow up, it's just like, yeah.
Oh dear.
I think that was the nail in the coffin, to be honest with you.
For sure. So we get to the round table. Peppermint starts the conversation. Sheree doesn't think it's Peppermint at all. Max also doesn't necessarily think it's Peppermint, but think that whole scenario that Trishelle brought up was a bit suspicious. Larsa does bring up the slip up, and Peppermint is trying to defend her misspeaking, but the group isn't really ready to buy it. John does bring up John and his breathing, and then Tamarin is kind of also backing up Janelle's thought here with the whole asthma and inhaler, and being like, well, what exactly did you say to Janelle? We're just trying to prove whether or not you're lying. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I think John is done. But then nope. Bergie chooses Peppermint. MJ chooses John. Phaedra, Peppermint. Sandra, Peppermint. Pretty much everybody Peppermint.
Yeah.
Max doesn't like the herd mentality, so he chooses John, Larsa, Parvati, Kevin, everybody. Peppermint, Trishelle chooses Peppermint. Peppermint chooses Trishelle, and everybody else chooses Peppermint.
And not to get ahead of us, but I mean, everyone here in the chat watched it as well. I'm sure all three. But it's like interesting that to know that one person who went for Peppermint or went like against the Peppermint vote is also the next person to go as well. When they were right, but it's yeah, I knew that it was going to be Peppermint when they weren't showing a lot of Janelle or Sandra, because I do feel like they actively avoided certain people that you thought might, vote for Peppermint, like not vote for Peppermint and be on Peppermint's side, and they just weren't showing it. And yeah, I'm like, it's definitely Peppermint, 100%. But
so she gets up and she muddle turns to the group and she says, "I am a faithful." And people are like, oh. Trishelle's like, "Oh my God, I feel so bad." And Sheree's like, "I'm pissed," or what'd she say? Like I'm upset. She was very mad.
That turn was everything, though. That little was everything.
They didn't get their full use of Peppermint this season. Like, they should, if they did the casting like we suggested with Peppermint, Max, and actually, it's really interesting that the people that we're choosing to potentially be the traitors are the ones that are like going out first. So I can't wait to relook at the cards and make myself understand why those cards meant that,
Right.
But I think I would have liked it better, I think, if they picked Peppermint and Max's traitors. I think it'd been
and I think they would have played differently, so it would have been more interesting. But it's yeah, I hated to see Peppermint go. I don't think it's enough Peppermint. But that's the thing. It's like, I think they are really kind of picking who to banish at these tables, people who are kind of out on their own, seemingly. So what is that going to say for future? Like, will the Johns go? Because John's probably kind of out on his own as well. Or like, where, is that just a happenstance, or is this kind of like the herd mentality thing, and if you're not social enough and in with the group enough?
Well, yeah, because like MJ thinks that the quiet people are the ones that are sus. So she's thinking like, if you're not saying anything, like maybe you're suspicious. Because I think she's learning from the fact that, Peppermint wasn't quiet. She was definitely speaking her mind, and so that wasn't the right banishment. So hopefully they're learning that like they're wrong, and they should maybe go for the people that are a little bit more quiet.
Yeah.
Deontay feels terribly that everybody piled on to Peppermint, including himself. Marcus thinks that it's weird that Dan didn't speak. And I was like, Marcus is too smart. He will be murdered tonight.
I did not know that I was going to like Deontay as much as I do.
I love Deontay. He's so
and I'm
cute.
like, wear your heart on your sleeve almost. Like, it's because you're so emotional and so passionate. And then like that discussion afterwards, like, I'm that person, and I jumped on the bandwagon like as part of this herd, and it kills him inside. I was like, oh, I'm there with you. Like, I get it. And it's like, yeah, he's just like really feels for these people. And I love that. And he's just, I just thought he was going to sit back, be quiet, not say a whole lot, because he's not used to this strategy stuff. But let me tell you, I'm like, he's one of my favorites.
Yes. He's definitely one of my favorites too, because he's just so pure. Like, he's so real, and I get it. Like, it doesn't feel good to him that like he was 100% sure and he went with the group and he felt that he was doing the right thing, and then he was completely wrong. Poor guy. Yeah. So the traitors do go meet for the first time. Cut to the final episode where we see Miss Parvati reveal herself, and then our other two traitors reveal themselves, and she's shocked. She's like, "Oh my God, you guys are doing so well." Do you think she's just saying that, or like lying? Because she has to see that Dan's not doing so well.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be able to spot that. So a little bit of lying there, perhaps. Yeah, like it. Yeah.
So they're talking about who they're going to be murdering. And Dan does let them know that I have the shield, and so it's going to be a traitor buffet. So I think Parvati has some lines here that are pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with her, and Phaedra also with their lines about being a traitor. They both have some good ones. So Parvati suggests Deontay. Dan suggests Marcus, and Phaedra suggests Janelle as people to be murdered. I was like, there's no way that it's not going to be Marcus. Like 0%.
Yeah, I just get so weird. There's too many people that in my mind, am protecting. So I'm like, don't bring up Janelle. Like, and I don't want, because what happens sometimes is all my favorites go home right away. And so I was a little bit worried, I have to admit. But yeah, I did think that it just makes way more sense to break up a couple who are working together. So
is Natalie lying to us here? I don't remember seeing this. Natalie's saying that we see Kate and Dr. Will in the trailer.
I didn't see that.
Natalie, are you making things up?
And what?
Because I would love that, but I don't know if I've seen that. So at the breakfast table, Max is in there and he wants to be watching everybody and seeing how if anybody's different, because they do know, a trailer just came out. Okay. If I can find it, I'll try to play it for us. I'll have to stop and start so I don't get flagged, but I'll try to find it. Larsa wants to save a seat for Marcus just in case. And Phaedra's like, don't say that. Don't say that. I was like, it's like, manifest him being here. And like, that's how you be quiet and like still have conversations with people, right? Like, talk to Larsa about the fact that like, no, your guy's still coming. Like, don't say that. Like, just to at least put a little bit of like, so there's less doubt on you.
Yeah.
Peter is putting together, what am I writing beside Dan? Oh, theories. So Peter is actually kind of smart and he has some theories and he's saying them beside Dan. I'm like, Peter, like, why is nobody thinking that there are traitors amongst us that could be listening to what we're saying here? And you don't want to ever look too smart.
They always do it. They like always tell the wrong person, or it always happens in these situations. I guess you just don't think that you're like, okay, I'll trust one person or two people, and you just don't think that they're one of the traitors, but I'm like, probably are.
Parvati, Janelle, and Deontay and Marcus are the final four to come into the room for breakfast, and Marcus does not make it to the breakfast table, and Lars is devastated. Like, he actually died. He's still alive. And Alan does arrive and gives Larsa his photo, his picture frame. So dramatic.
Yeah, it needed to happen though. And it's like now, like, yet another person who was an answer on that challenge is gone. So it's like a little bit of a kiss of death.
A little bit. So they're going to be having their challenge at night. And so they're going to be meeting later on. Dan acting shocked was really hilarious to me. Like, he's not a good actor. He's like, it's like, I mean, I love watching any of my reality stars that I love play these games just to see what they're doing. But Dan's not a good actor. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Especially if you've like watched him as a competitor before and in other shows, then you just know. Like, Dan's looks.
And he's like, well, why would they do that? It's just so weird. It's like, I don't get it. Like, I can't. Like, I can't take Dan being stupid. You know what I mean? Like,
the oblivious Dan.
Yeah. Like, what? Like, I don't get it. Like, it's just not. It's not Dan to me. All right, so they cheers to Marcus. And so we also then see Larsa and Tamara working together. So this is that threesome that we were talking about when we did our cast prediction. I wonder who the third person, maybe MJ would be the third woman to be kind of like working together, which would be kind of fun. We see Traichelle. Traichelle is thinking, Dan, he is so reserved. I'm like, she's kind of clocking him. Parvati hears this though, and so like Parvati now knows that Trishelle is a little bit onto him. CT, Deontay, Max, and Kevin are talking, and talking about Marcus, and thinking that maybe it was a boarding shot for Larsa, because like maybe Larsa was speaking too much, and so they're taking out Marcus just to shut Larsa up. And then Max says, they ask Max his opinion, and he doesn't say too much, and he's just looking suspicious. Just say something, Max. Something.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch Max on Dancing with the Stars, that's who Max is. So I just wish that they were like Dancing with the Stars watchers from whenever Max was on it, because yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Him just kind of being like a little weird, little lone wolfy, kind of just doing his own thing is very on brand.
But I guess like he's scared to sink his mind because he doesn't know who the traitors are. So like he's holding back a little bit. But like
his mind only when he needs to, and it's like he's better at speaking out like when he would against the judges for a bad score.
Right. Oh yeah. He's
so like when there's a point of contention, like that's when Max will speak out. Like when he was like not on board with the herd mentality and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just feel like we need to speed that up for Max. We need to like see him get into his own a little bit more.
So Larsa does tell Dan and crew that Bananas and Marcus suggest that it's a male traitor, and that they should be focusing on a man. What do you think about her, like how she came to this conclusion?
Ooh, well, I was just thinking at the time, I'm like, that's a good way to like make sure your name's not out there, or nothing's like on you, especially if you like maybe want to work with some of the women. And
but then if it's true though that the male traitor maybe would want to take out a woman because they're just like, well, let's like shake up that theory or whatever.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's I just thought she did it out of a place of like trying to protect herself. Maybe I don't know.
I guess I think I mean I like the fact though that they're focusing on a male. Like what I was saying before is like it's good to kind of narrow it down and focus on one sex maybe, because there's going to be at least one of each. And so if like two male are gone and one female, like I would just be like, let's maybe focus on a male because there's going to be less people to choose from. So they're going to be at the graveyard for this next challenge. Welcome to the dark side. They're going to be grave digging for gold. There's graves, tombs, and crypts. And then there's a searchlight that's going to be going across, two searchlights going kind of back and forth in a particular pattern. If you get caught under the searchlight, you're going to be eliminated. So there's going to be two groups. The first group's going to go. They're going to try to dig for these gold bits, bars, or whatever. And then as people get eliminated, the other people get to tag in. I didn't realize that they're going to be tagged in. I didn't really understand the reason for the tagging in part. Is it so like the people that were watching the sideline could recognize the pattern and then like be able to win it in the end?
I just thought there would be too many people on the field, and it would be like you'd be stopping every 3 seconds because someone would be caught by the spotlights. Like you couldn't. I thought it was just too many people. And then we start seeing these people get caught frequently and all of that. And we do find out that there's a pattern. But then looking at it from a few camera angles, I'm like, oh, I think, yes, there's spotlights, but it's lit to begin with. So I do think that, like, because I'm like, why do people keep walking into these things? And it just seemed like it was maybe hard to, especially like the outer edges of the spotlight, hard to tell sometimes because of how it was lit just in general for the cameras. To really, obviously you could see the spotlights, but it was just, they would blend in sometimes. It wasn't like pitch black and then a spotlight, so it was so blaringly obvious, because it did seem like people were walking into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of like the challenge, but I just didn't understand why it was so easy for them to get caught. So CT, he's like thinking that he's going to be the hero, and he kind of gets he finds it wasn't an axe, but it was like a hammer, and he starts busting out, I think, the shield one, or like, I don't know if it was shield or gold, one of the two. But then he gets caught by the light pretty quickly, and I was like, CT, like, I'm embarrassed for you here.
It was the shield, because we saw someone go for it afterwards and mention that. And I'm like, of course, CT going for that shield again. All the same people kind of going for the shield again, which is funny. But yeah, he got caught, and I was like, I said before he said it, I was like, oh, you can do better than that. And then he basically said the same thing. He's like, I'm better than that.
Mm-hmm. So basically, MJ's done, Trishelle's done, Parvati's done, Deontay's done, Sheree's done, Sandra's done, and Bergie is the only one that seems to have figured out that there is a pattern that the lights are going, and finally people start listening to Bergie. Bergie is the MVP of this challenge, and he banks 5,000, and then Peter banks 1,500. Then Tamara gets a shield, and then Bergie is really like they're really doing pretty well at this point. They're able to, they all figured out the pattern now of these spotlights. Who said not Burgalicious? Was that Phaedra?
Phaedra says the Burgalicious, yeah, so probably.
And then Peter gets a shield, and then we see the Janelle Ekansu battle over a shield.
Loved it.
Some are saying
Loved
Queen
it.
Janelle trading in her POVs for shields. Absolutely. Also, there was some discrepancy on how that fight went down. From my perspective, I saw Peter was over there. Janelle was like, Peter, let me have it. Like, let me do it. She was in there reaching in. And then to me, it seemed like Ekansu came around and tried to get in on the thing. And Janelle's like, get off of me. I'm here first.
I mean, I'd have to rewatch. They all look like they were all there at the same time to me. So I don't know who was right, wrong. I did hear, like, obviously Janelle being like, oh, can I have that? And then just like, get out. And then like, just like, you know, which I love. I mean, love every moment of it. And she did the right thing because she knew, not to skip ahead, but she knew in the car on the way back that obviously Ekansu's going to be talking about it. So you need to get ahead of that and put your version of
Out
what
there.
happened and be like, well, I'm not going to say anything unless she starts saying something about me. And so I like love that because people were siding with, you know, some people on either end, but I feel like what we saw later is some people were like, well, Janelle, I actually believe Ekansu, so I'm voting you. And some people were like, I believe Janelle, I'm voting Ekansu. And so I thought it was really interesting. Loved it. Love how competitive Janelle is. You know, again, it's not always the smartest move just to be like, you know, a bull in a china shop, as they say, to kind of like go for these things. But I don't care. I absolutely love being that bold. So
Joshua thinks it was reminiscent of when she took the veto before
yes.
James could in BB7. Absolutely.
And James was whining about it, remember?
Yeah. And Josh agrees with me that Janelle did grab the shield first for sure. That was my perspective. I was like, where's Ekansu coming from? And then playing like, oh, I don't like catty girls or whatever she said. And I was like, spoken like a true catty girl. So $19,500 is what they are able to accrue from this mission. Janelle, Peter, and Tamara all have shields. And I wrote down Janelle was at the shield first and Ekansu was complaining, but they were both complaining, like you said, about each other on their way back to the mansion. So when they do get there, we hear that MJ wants Dan in the hot seat. And Deontay says that he's going to be going for Max. Peter is standing up for Janelle and thinks that Janelle is a faithful when he's talking with Kevin, because Kevin thinks that Janelle is like a traitor for going for the shield. And I was like, oh my God, he's so basic. Like Peter's like, no.
Yeah, Kevin starts with, and I mean, Peter could have like snowballed that idea and it could have become something. So Peter, you're in my good books for shutting that down.
But then they decide to come up with a plan, like let's vote for each other, so then the traitors don't think that.
And that's dumb. That's dumb. Because everyone's face is like, why? Like, you know, that doesn't even make sense. Like, why would you do that?
Exactly. I mean, it does make sense a little bit. Like the traitors know that you're not necessarily onto them.
Yeah, but people are so heavily you almost needed like a little 3 triangle or whatever doing it that way, because people are so heavily influenced by what's happening at that table. And when your names aren't out there at all, and then you both vote for each other, it's just blaringly obvious, you know?
Apparently Janelle tweeted, give me that shield, bitch. Get it, Janelle. So like, I love you, Ekansu, but don't come for Janelle. Like you're messing with the wrong fandom here.
Yeah.
The wrong fandom. So yeah, I think that like Ekansu probably just wanted Janelle to just be like, oh, here, you can have it. Like Janelle's not like that. at all. So Parv does update Dan and like basically about like, hey, like people are sus of you. You're gonna be in the hot seat at the round table. And Larsa wants revenge. So we're at the round table. Bergie speaks up first. He got some pep in his step after being the MVP of the mission, saying that, we've heard your name, Dan. It's time for you to say something about this. Mm-hmm. And so Dan does respond in a weak way that we kind of already talked about quite a bit so far. And MJ kind of comes in and rebuttals him, being like, well, you're not helping the group. Like if we just kind of went along with how you're playing this game, we would not have any discussions at the round table. And I think it's a really good point. And is it bad that I wanted the numbers to be for Dan to be outed?
Listen, I didn't think it was going to happen, but I definitely was like hoping for it as well because we've seen a couple episodes of this happening so far, and I just would love a good little shake up there. And I'm very like overall, I'm very indifferent with Dan. I mean, I don't dislike him at all. I like watching him, but at the same time, I'm like, he's not someone I'm personally rooting for. So, yeah, a little shake up would be interesting. But I think for Janelle's game and Dan working with her, I need Dan in the game.
Right, because he's going to protect her, likely. Yeah. Deontay, though, is supporting Dan, being like, he's just a quiet guy. Like, he doesn't want people to gang up on the quiet guy, Dan. Poor Deontay. He's getting snowed here, but he's just because he's a kind soul. So he's focusing on Max because he thought that Max just didn't answer some of these questions well, and he was being quite suspicious and that Max is a bad actor. Sandra also points her finger at Max, and then Max points the finger at the fight that happened with Ekin-Su and Janelle. And then Ekin-Su kind of responding, saying, like, I know you're a selfish person. I'm like, it's a selfish game, Ekin-Su. Yeah. Like, yeah. Sorry, babe.
Yeah, there's no teams here. It's like, yeah. Faithful's against the traitors, but you have to make sure that you're looking out for yourself. So
100%. No, Lena, the shield only protects you from being murdered, but being voted off, you could still be banished. Max and CT do get into a little fight because how did that happen? What did Max say to CT?
I don't recall them. There's just, a lot happening, but I don't recall.
And so Larsa, with good reason, is scared of Dan because he's so quiet. They don't know what he's thinking, what his perspectives are, they believe, who they should push. Like there's he's not offering any theories, and she said that scares him that you're so quiet, and it makes sense to me. But at the votes, we see Sheree voting for Janelle. You're either a traitor or a selfish faithful. I was like, so rude. Bergie votes for Max, MJ for Dan, Phaedra for Ekin-Su. What did I write? Estrogen. Oh, the estrogen battle. She wasn't here for it. Sandra votes for Max. Peter votes for Kevin, as we heard. John votes for Max. Janelle, Max. Max votes for Ekin-Su. So it seems like he was agreeing with Janelle here. Larsa votes for Dan. Parvati votes for Kevin, but she erases the D or crosses the D out.
Yeah. So yes,
I did see this.
This to me would have given away who the traitors are. If I was sitting at that table, I would have been like, why is Parvati doing that? That is done on purpose to say that you could say that it was Dan later on. You could be like, I was going to write Dan. And when Dan's caught as being a traitor, you could say, well, I was going to put Dan on. I even crossed out my D or whatever, but then I didn't because of how the things went. I instantly would have known sitting at that, and I promise you, I know this is like in retrospect, whatever, but I promise you, if I was sitting at that table, I would have spotted that and been like, she's a traitor and Dan's a traitor. That would have given it away to me. I thought that was a big mistake on her. I don't know that people catch on to it, but I thought it was, I know what you're trying to do. And I think that's a big mistake. So,
well, and then we hear in the confessional, she's like, I'm not ready to turn on Dan just yet.
You were prepping yourself. So it's, big mistake. If anyone really noticed that for what it really is. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's chalk. You could just, you could erase it. She left it there on purpose. And I think it's a for an alibi. Agree. I'm wondering though, like, because it will shake up Dan. Dan should, like, if I was Dan, I'd be like, why'd you put the letter D? And she'd be like, oh, like, I didn't want to vote for Kevin. So I just wanted to make it look like maybe I'm siding with those women so that like they want me to work with them. Like, I don't know. She can say whatever.
Yeah. I think that the only person who will notice, it will be something where people will notice only if Parvati wants them to notice afterwards, being like, well, I was going to vote for him. Because remember, I don't know if you saw that, I crossed off the D, and they'd be like, oh, I did see that. But they won't think of it. But it's like, yeah, I saw it as well. I don't think people will think like John. They won't. But it's like, Dan might be a little, he'll file that away at the very least. But it was such a dead giveaway to me. And I just wish more people took the time to look at those small things. It's the devil's in the details, right?
Kevin votes for Peter. He doesn't want to go with the herd. Okay. Trishelle votes for Max. Deontay votes for Max. And Ekansu, I don't know what she voted for. Probably no. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't write down. Dan voted for Max. Tamara voted for Max. CT voted for Max. Deontay says it's Max 100%. 100%. And I'm like just laughing because I'm like, oh my God, he so believes it so wholeheartedly that it's Max.
Having said that, I would say his rationale is not incorrect. He was just happened to be wrong. Like, I thought the way he was thinking, how he came up with it is very on point to find traitors. It's just, you can't be right every time. And it just happens to be wrong. So I was actually impressed with his way of thinking.
But then Max goes up and he does say that I am a faithful. And Deontay, now he's pissed. He's not pissed. He's sad and heartbroken and like demoralized. He feels awful.
And may not go after people again like that,
No, he might be more quiet.
Yeah.
MJ, though, is really diplomatic, I found, when she was addressing Sandra and Deontay, being like, you guys really, your voices were really loud, and it, like, a lot of people went with you, but like, you guys were wrong. And so I thought that was interesting how she addressed them.
Yeah, like a parting kind of like points in their direction to be, but like as it's ending, so you're kind of like not to be spoken of now, but like there you go, like it's a little seed.
Deontay's heart hurts and he's crying and Phaedra is comforting him. Like, this is what you need to be doing, Dan. Like, comfort Deontay. Deontay stood up for you at that round table. They've been like, it's okay, man. I mean, Deontay, though, is going to, like, be really hurt if he gets to the end, like an Andy or a Quentin. Like, but, Dan should be doing some more. So the traitors do each get a letter, and they're going to have to do a murder in plain sight. There is Hamlet, Othello, and Macbeth books that each have a poison chalice in it, or the collection of 3 of us a poison chalice. And so Parv and Dan are having like a bit of a secret meeting here, and they're basically deciding who they're going to be choosing to murder here in plain sight. So John, Sheree, or MJ is kind of their short list. But they're worried about maybe doing Sheree because like Phaedra wouldn't be really happy to co-sign that. But Dan's kind of like, well, she won't be able to say anything about it. Which I'm like, that's not a good thing to get one of your fellow traitors pissed off at you, because like they could easily get all those Bravo women to get against you easily. So I would be a little bit nervous, Dan, or like a little bit more wary.
Especially when she's like trusting you. She's like, well, we're in different circles, so I can't speak with them without it being obvious. So I'm just trusting and leaving it up to them,
Mm-hmm. And so we've seen this murder in plain sight before, at least one time. Before, though, they had to just do like a little gun point at the person that they're murdering and like hold it. Wait, hold on. Am I thinking of a different?
That's a different show. That's
in the Devil's Plan, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And that guy had to do like this, whatever, and like one person saw him, but like didn't say, yeah.
Sorry, that was the Devil's Plan, which was basically murdering in plain sight. one of the roles of one of the tasks.
I feel like I can't remember either, but in my Traitors online game that I played, we also did this. So it must have been from one of the other, which I just literally can't remember right now, but it must have been from one of the other versions or last year or seasons or whatever. That we saw this as well.
So Phaedra is just going to leave it to Dan and Parvati to get this done. Dan does manage to get the book. Parvati like gets the chalice. Then she's behind the bar, and Phaedra is watching Sheree because like she's not going to have Sheree be poisoned on her watch. Parvati's kind of trying to do a toast with John, playing bartender, and then she goes to the other room because the time was ticking and it didn't seem like anybody was. In the other room, MJ's there. She tries her MJ, but MJ is just drinking her own drink. And then she sees her target, and they kind of show Peter, but it's not going to be Peter because he has a shield. And then it fades to black. And she gives a spider analogy that she's just going to go and, spin her web and take someone out. So is it anybody but Bergie? Who's it?
I was distracted, I guess, while I was watching this, because I'm like, wait, do they just need to pick it up? Do they need to touch it? And then she was talking about later, like drinking from it. So I'm like, I was unsure of, every time she put it down, my heart I was like, like she was around Sandra at first, and now it's around Janelle. And I'm just like so afraid because I think Parvati would kill anybody potentially.
I think at this point it's anybody, whoever is easy right now.
Yeah. So and her hovering around Janelle, although Janelle has a drink in her hand, I'm like, what is she gonna do? And it seems the edit does seem like it could be Bergie, because you'd be like, you could do something like, taste my drink, isn't this disgusting? Or like something like that. And and he would
look
do
what
it.
I found, like this chalice.
Yeah, like something like, does this taste right to you? I don't know, something where he would be like, oh yeah, okay, no, because he's so nice. But I'm worried it's someone that I like want, like a Janelle type of situation. I'm worried.
I just don't think like Janelle would be an easy person. She's just so sus of people that I just don't see it happening with Janelle. Thomas here is saying, I think the Traitors in an international version had the kiss of death to a faithful in plain sight.
Yeah, I watched all of them, so
I just don't remember which one when it happened. I agree. So okay, so whomever it is, how do you think they're going to let it play out? Do you think that they'll just get murdered, or do you think that they will? Because it's like it's a slow burn murder or whatever, or death, slow death. And so do you think they're going to make it to the breakfast table, and then they're going to be told like, hey, you're going to die, but die at the breakfast table, and you don't know who got poisoned and when?
Well, you see that they have like a funeral, and he had announced in the preview, like, this is a funeral for one of you. So like, I think they're at their own funeral and they don't know it. Which is interesting, because I'm like, do you like, normally you just wouldn't show up. Like, we've never seen someone like, see you later, be removed really. And so I don't know. And it was, by the way, the Traitors, Amanda plants the kiss of death so season 1 of the UK version, Amanda was the person.
Yes, I remember. I loved Amanda. I can't remember how it played out, but I do remember. I almost have it.
Yeah, I was just.
What she had to do? Like, she had to hug them or sit beside them, shake their hand.
I'm just literally looking it up right now.
Kiss on the cheek.
It was. Let me see what it says. But
Janelle has a shield, Jonathan. Oh yeah.
Janelle has the. Oh, right, because she didn't have a shield the second with the scarecrows, but she has a shield with the. Oh, thank God.
The grave digging. So Peter, right. Her, and who's the last person?
I'm not even thinking about the shield. Oh, who wrote that? I'm looking on another webpage right now, but whoever reminded me of that, Maureen, you're my girl. I completely forgot about people having the shield because of the murder in plain sight situation.
Well, okay, Danica's saying that, like, were they trying to get out a girl? Dan was talking about needing to get to beat a woman. But then Parvati's going to be like, I'm going to get who's easiest for me to do here. Sorry, Dan, if it, like, you're not doing it, so I'm not going to make sure that it's, like, better for you. Like, she's going to do whoever's easiest for her. And I think it's going to be a guy. And I think she's not going to mind Dan getting a little bit more heat because another guy goes out because she wrote that D down. I think she's going to be ready to lose Dan very soon.
Yeah.
That's my thought. That's my thought. Well, Jonathan. Okay, we did in 213. Not too bad. Next, after this, will just be a quick hour, likely, and we'll be able to do our little recap. Any overall thoughts? And then I'm going to show the trailer that was dropped.
Yeah, I think it's really good. It's probably better than I even thought it would be. And I like the little changes that they're making. And yeah, I was just wondering how like a full celebrity cast would play out. And let me tell you, they bring the personalities. So well done. Well done. And I can't wait. Like I will be dying every week to see these episodes because, you know, and I'm on the edge of my seat when I'm watching it. So I just hope that the people that I enjoy make it far. And that includes new friends that I haven't seen before, like Phaedra and Deontay, who I am really enjoying, you know, their journeys on this. Yeah, my heart's with them. It's like, yeah, it's really, and that's what we don't see often is someone really getting eaten up, you know, about these decisions, which are difficult decisions. And we forget that sometimes. That there are, you know, these emotions involved, and it's it's hard for him who hasn't played in something like that. So I can't wait. I think it's great. The season's great.
All right, let's watch this. I'm gonna have to stop and start, guys, so it'll be a little bit annoying, but I just don't want this video to get flagged. Okay, so we do have a trailer that we'll watch together. Oh, it was only 6 seconds.
Guest in my casa.
I think you missed me. Tell me everything. Who do we hate?
I find you. There's a new guest.
Oh, it's just Kate just put the little bit of this on. Damn it. Hold on. Let me get the whole thing. Let me find the whole thing somewhere. Does anybody have the whole thing that they want to send to me? I thought this was the whole thing. Darn it. Darnay. Is this the whole thing? Hold on a sec. But that looks good too. Okay.
What is she doing back?
I don't know. Maybe she's.
You think she'd be a player? I don't. I feel like it might be like a special something. How you gonna give people like a free pass to like just show up, you know, several rounds into it?
I think maybe at the end of this one is the. Okay, I'm gonna just start it here, and then see what's happening. Sorry, guys. I thought it was the whole thing, but we're just going to show a little bit of whatever this is because it's 2 minutes long, but I'll just show part of it.
There's a new guest in my casa.
Oh.
I think you missed me. Tell me everything.
No, not this. Sorry, people. I swear I've done this before. I swear.
Wasn't that the right spot?
I thought it was, but then why was it?
It was the right spot.
Okay, well. We'll see.
So we just started on.
We'll see. Sugar. So maybe I just cued it at like a perfect spot unintentionally. Okay, I'm gonna go right from there. It's gonna be from here. And let's try it again.
I'm going to take care of her once and for all.
There's a new guest in my casa.
I think you missed me. Tell me everything. Who do we hate?
I find you highly annoying.
You're acting like a traitor.
Okay.
So that's this challenge is something that we've seen before where they take out other people's stuff with the crossbows or whatever.
Hold on to your kilts, dearies. The games are just beginning.
Is that Dr. Will?
I'm like shooketh, though. I thought people were just lying here.
Too much?
Too much. I don't know. I don't think they're like maybe it's guest appearances for some reason. I don't think they're bringing them in as players though. Like, you know,
I
several
don't know.
episodes in. Well, I mean, how could you be a player? Because you'd be like, we're bringing someone in, and are they like they're a faithful? Like, you know, you can't like, or are you adding like a yet another traitor when we haven't like, or could they be anything? I don't know. I just don't think that's, I don't know the dynamic of it. We'll see.
Okay, we will start watching that from this point forward, AK. Someone
The
had mentioned
aftermath of the traitor. What is that?
it's called something else. Somebody just mentioned it, but I didn't star it.
I don't even know what that is.
It's like a it's like untouched untucked.
Untucked?
Sorry, like it's showing a little bit more about the episode and some people's perspectives and stuff like that. So I'll find out what it's called, but I think someone was saying it's another tab on the Peacock site, and you can watch the.
I don't get Peacock because I'm in
Okay.
Canada, so I watch on my we don't. I don't think we get that. Or, I mean, without blocking our IPs and all this jazz, which I won't do. But I don't know that I can see that.
Okay, well, I'll try to. What I'll do? What I'll do is I'll record it for you and I'll send it to you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody for being here. It was so nice to have this discussion. This is a good time. Likely we'll just go live like after the episode on a Thursday, unless things happen and we have to postpone. But like that seems like a doable thing. Like what is it going to come on at 9? So we'll do it at like 10:15 for an hour or so.
Quite possibly. I'm not guaranteeing anything until we're there and seeing what happens. But if it works, it works. Yeah.
So yeah, we will be doing these recaps. They'll be a lot shorter, but equally as fun and exciting because we love this cast, we love this show, and we love talking about it with each other and with you guys.
Yeah, so great. And I just want to know, please leave in comments who you think is being murdered in plain sight. I mean, we all think that it might be Bergie, but like, is it? And then if it's not, who's the secondary choice? I mean,
Kevin?
Who was in that kitchen? Who was in that kitchen? We need a list of who was in that kitchen. It's like Parvati in the kitchen with the shower.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Clue. Yeah, amazing. I can't wait to see it. So yeah, please leave a comment as to who you think is going to be murdered. Also let us know, do you think that Kate and Dr. Will are going to be playing the game? Are they coming in as faithfuls? Are they coming in as traitors? Are they coming in to just host a task, lead a roundtable? Like, why are they here? Let us know your thoughts here. No spoilers if you know the real truth, but just let us know what your thoughts are. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and as I already said, let us know your thoughts on who is going to be murdered in plain sight.
Yes.
Oh. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.